And here we go.
In 5, 4, 3.
Call to me, lands far away.
Elves have forests to protect.
We need to build a wall.
Dwarfs their mines. Men their fields of grain. But we Harfoots have each other.
For I must now wander this wandering day.
We're safe.
You have fought long enough, Galadriel.
No.
Put up your sword.
The enemy is still out there. The question now is where?
It is over.
Nothing is over! Nothing! You were the chosen one! It was said that you would destroy the Sith, not join them!
If you only knew the power of the dark side.
Darkness will march over the face of the earth. It will be the end, not just of our people, but all peoples.
Everyone! I am sorry, but their time has come.
The past is with us all. The past is dead. We either move forward or we die with it.
This could be the beginning of a new era.
Away I must wander this wandering day.
To him finally being lionized in the prime and his prime. Fuck.
Do it!
Shit.
Just do it! Don't let your dreams change. Yesterday, you said tomorrow. So just do it! Make your dreams come true!
Luke went from being... Oh, no. Welcome, Slayer Nation. I have some great news for you today. I hope you're all doing great. Nope, that didn't work. One more.
You have failed me for the last time.
Welcome, Slayer Nation. I hope...
If you're tired of starting over, stop giving up.
That is eating away at what you love in order for it to shine. And one man's vision is... Sometimes you don't have to make things better for them to be great again. You merely have to... Okay. Hollywood continues to slow boil the culture and crazy. Well, right now, Spider-Man actor Andrew Garfield has stepped up and he's fighting motherfucker.
I can't do it. Okay. We'll do it live. Okay. We'll do it live. Fuck it.
And unbearded dwarves, but Prime didn't stop there. They stapled in intersectionality, individuality, biddiga-dig-bee, biddiga-dig-boo.
So it begins.
At my signal, unleash hell.
Ladies and gentlemen, George the Giant Slayer.
What's going on, everybody? We are back. How you doing today? The sun is up. The weather's kind of cool for Texas. It's really nice. I'm not burning my ass off. And it's great to be here with all the people that I love. I hope you're doing well. I see people are starting to pack into the house. It's always a good thing when you're about to throw a feast or have fun with your friends. We have a lot to talk about today. It's Hollywood versus America in this showdown of 2024. A little bit about Disney, DEI. Chicago's been bought and sold away from its citizens and is probably coming to a city near you, maybe one where you live. And then we have this game of divide and conquer that's been going on. Are lies going to win, or is it going to be love? Is it going to be hope or hate? Well, we're going to find out. Are you ready? Well, let's get rolling, Slayer Nation. Like I said, we have a great show for you, an amazing lineup of guests. We got the comedy chops of Paul Chato. We got the inside of Verbal Riot, the magic and mystery of the man known as Epic Mike. How are y'all doing?
Good, man. Very good.
And we have the one and only. He's back by popular demand. I'm producing today. This is the truth-telling titan himself, a powerhouse who pulls no punches and tells it like it is. Everybody, welcome the unstoppable and undefeated Anton Daniels.
What's going on, my friends? How y'all feel?
Doing well. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I can't complain, not even a little bit.
Well, that's always good. That's always good. The news has been crazy lately. I saw one of your videos the other day about the woman who was looking for a baby daddy. Man, I was like, what the hell is this generation going to? It's like, she's like, I want a guy who's going to love kids, who's going to be religious, who's going to pay for all my bills, but let me go out, hang out with the hoes, have a good time, watch the kid, do a little bit. I was like, what the hell was that?
And that girl couldn't have been any older than 18, 19 years old. That's the interesting thing about it.
And she has an OnlyFans account.
I wouldn't doubt it. And she's
Dude, you know what though?
She's gonna be successful and profitable too.
I was gonna say at this point, man, OnlyFans is like LinkedIn. Everyone has one, right?
Wow, they do, but you thought she was 18. I thought she was a little bit older. I didn't.
No,
that's 18, what I said.
18, 19 years old. That's it's normalized now. It's regular.
Yeah. She told me she was 16. I didn't know.
Oh, we got another guest here making our panel. The man of 1,000 talents, Tom from Midnight's Edge. Woo. Is that your own little entrance?
Midnight's Edge and Midnight's Edge After Dark.
Yeah, Anton, I saw one of your shows a couple of days ago. I saw one of your shows a couple of days ago, and I'm like, where do you find these guests, man? There was this one guest you had on. Her name was Trigger. Oh my God, my head was hurting by the end of that show.
Well, I will say that on the Monday night kind of debate show or whatever, that I don't find the guests. I have a person that does all of that. Her name is Island Girl Q. She's the one that's in the upper left-hand corner directly next to me. And that's kind of her thing. That's her show. She kind of put together all of the subjects. I just show up and talk similarly to how I'm doing right now. So I got to say that.
Yeah, she wouldn't listen to reason at all, man.
Yeah, I think that's the perspective of most women. I think that it doesn't matter if you're married. It doesn't matter if you're single. Very few men are in a situation where the woman that they're with, they can reason with. And so in most situations, what I found is that men are enduring. They're not necessarily thriving in their circumstances.
So what you saying is bitches be crazy. Gotcha.
100%.
I not to change the modus operandi of this show, but I think there's a bit of putting up on both sides. I mean, men like their caves.
Right.
But think about that for a minute, though. You own the house. You pay for the majority of the bills, but you got to go into a cave.
No.
If that's not the very definition of endurance, I don't know what.
Hey, you know what? My belief is that good relationships are a 60-40 split both ways, and you have 60-40 split both ways, and you have to learn to be a bit selfish, or you'll go nuts.
I think that men should be 100% selfish. I don't think that men should focus on what women want at all. And in most situations, what you'll find is that even in the dating market, women don't want the man that they wind up settling for. And usually that's the guy that don't care anything about them.
Well, yeah, those are, I believe that's generally true. I mean, you know, in high school, especially the girls like the bad boys.
They still do. Even at 40, they still do.
Yeah. Yeah, but now they seem to be, whether they like the bad boys, they always have, but now they're seeming to be looking for babysitter, best friend, lollipop holder.
They want
those are the guys that they settle for. The guys that they had kids with was the bad boys, and
they're screwing the bad boy down the street.
Their kids are the guys that they settle for.
I'm married 41 years after, just as of September 5th. I'm happily married.
Congrats, man.
Love the woman. I think she loves me.
I feel bad for your wife.
You think she loves you? Wow. Is that why it lasted so long? You're like, I don't know. I keep me on my toes.
She puts up with him intolerance.
But you know what? I think modern women are a different breed. I talked with a C-level dating coach. Do you know what that is? So women who are in the C-suite in mega corporations who are making millions of dollars
and are miserable,
can't date.
Yeah, of course.
So they hired this one woman who I met at a business meeting who was absolutely drop dead gorgeous, and she's a psychologist, and she goes in and helps these women. And as my friend Anton said, the problem with these C-suite women is that they want the perfect guy, and they're intolerable.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think talking about C-suite and women and power and how people can still impact people. There was something, because there's actually a lot to unpack today. We have Anton here for a short time. Last time you were here, I mean, this was just a few weeks ago, the first time that you were on the show, a lot's happened. We had RFK, he endorsed Trump since then. We had Tulsi Gabbard come out, a lot of news broke. We had Kamala go on about, let's bring on the age of joy. But I started noticing how the celebrities that were backing Kamala, you have some of them are going on Twitter, they're going on social media, rah, rah, shish, boom, bah. But it seems like the celebrity power, the influence is waning, like it's gone. Are you noticing that, Anton? Like they're more listening to YouTubers, to influencers, people who are no fluff, straight facts, honest, authentic.
Well, historically, celebrities haven't been the brightest. They haven't been the sharpest knife in the tool shed. And so it was easy to manipulate them. And there are some still out there. It was easy to manipulate them to basically use their visibility and leverage them in order to get out the vote, right? It didn't mean that they were able to substantiate their arguments. It really meant that there were tools, right, the same way that there are tools from an entertainment perspective. And so you're seeing less get involved because now it's more critical, because everybody else has the ability to voice their opinion about how it is that you feel. So when you talk about 20 years ago, in 2004, it was a much different place because everybody didn't have the ability to, go through what you said and then also leverage that against you in the future. Whereas now, you have people like me that may have more of an impact from a political perspective, and you endorsing somebody just being a celebrity, that's going to come back and bite you. And we've seen that happen. Like, for example, with Cardi B, right? We know that Cardi B endorsed Joe Biden. She did an interview with him. Now, of all the people that Joe Biden could have done an interview with, why would he choose Cardi B? Clearly, because she has visibility and she didn't have the insight and understanding to convey her point other than to just say, hey, we endorsing Joe Biden. It's the same thing now, except for you're seeing less of it. And I know a lot of people, I know a lot of celebrities. And the interesting part about that, though, is that they're scared to not only say something, but I'm seeing way more of them are leaning more right and leaning towards Trump, but they know that they can't say it because then it will upset what their opportunities are depending on who their audience is, right? So they believe one way, but they're not necessarily saying anything because they don't want the pushback from the the audience and the people that are their fans and the general public. They don't want that.
I mean, you're seeing that right now with Taylor Swift. I mean, Taylor Swift, I'm sure, is a lefty, but have you heard her talking about politics at all? No, because she's dating a
Yeah.
guy in the NFL, and the NFL is mostly conservative, and they probably put the lock on her and told her you cannot say a damn word about.
I don't think that she's a lefty.
You know,
well, she presents as she's probably not. She's probably not. But she
Did you
doesn't
miss the
present that.
video where she said she should have promoted Biden or whatever it was?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the thing is, her fan base is definitely lefties for the most
they're
part.
changing, but they're
Absolutely.
changing. Have you seen the Swifties for Trump over the last 48, 72 hours?
Well, you got to also remember that as we get older, we tend to become more conservative because we wake up, we get wiser, right? So, of course, that's not for everybody. And I don't think that everybody becomes conservative, but a conservative base is not a base where they're saying, hey, let's go and register you to vote. A conservative base is somebody that they're saying, hey, let me inform you on what's really going on. A liberal base is more of a base where they depend on your ignorance in order to get you out the polls, right? So they always say, hey, register to vote, register to vote, register to vote, because there's an expectation for you to vote a certain way, regardless, just because of your demographic or where you live or whatever that is, they push that, right? And so I think that as people get older, I believe that they become more informed, and it's very difficult once you realize that it kind of goes against a lot of the things that you want to do, especially if you start to become successful, especially if you want to do what you want to do. Even if you decide that you want to be a part of the LGBTQ, which I don't really care what you do, what people don't realize is that a lot of times the Republican Party is the party that's saying, we don't care what you want to do. We just don't want you to tell our kids what to do. We don't want you to put it in the books. We don't want you going into separate people's bathrooms, right? You're not going to force me to think something that I don't think. You're not going to force me to say, oh, okay, you're a biological man, but you really identify as a girl. I'm going to call you what you want. Well, guess what? I identify as a billionaire. You know what I'm saying? Do I get the same benefits as a billionaire? No, I don't. So they don't want you fighting in women's sports against other women. So that's really the state of things. But I think that one party depends on your ignorance a lot more than the other.
I am seeing a lot more. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I just want to say that when I dress and drag at home, I don't even allow myself in my own washroom.
Wow.
I just want to say that.
And I'd appreciate it if you'd stop sending me those pictures too.
Well, what I want to say, it's interesting is because
go.
Oh no, I was going to say, and you're seeing that right now, like even with George Clooney. You know, I think he realized he backed the wrong horse, and surprisingly, he did the right thing by speaking out, saying he can't endorse Biden. But now, you know, there's Kamala. You know, and he's been pretty quiet about her too. So I think celebrities have realized if they just be quiet, they're probably better off.
Well,
no more endorsing people because it's not to their benefit anymore.
Right, but if you're talking about, sorry, go ahead, Mike.
I was going to say, I mean, the thing is, like, you know, 10, 15, 20 years ago, you didn't have the access to information that you do now. And a lot of times with the way YouTube is and the reason that people are coming into places like YouTube and Twitter and these different spaces is because you can get information a lot faster, and because you're spending a lot more time with like YouTubers and content creators than you ever did with a celebrity. You know, they do these curated interviews, they ask them the right questions, they make sure you don't ask the wrong questions. And even with that, we saw, I mean, you can go back and look whenever a celebrity wasn't playing by the book, how bad it went for their careers. Like anytime they had you upset Dave Letterman, you might not be making movies anymore. I mean, like, that was just how it is. It's not like that anymore. And unfortunately, that also gave rise to people. I mean, we're watching it happen like right now with like Mark Hamill. Stephen King's another one too. They've completely damaged their brand because they keep running their mouths, and you realize, oh my God, these guys like don't know what they're talking about. Like these guys are kind of, you know, these, like, I don't want to be mean. I mean, like, not every actor is dumb and not all actors are stupid, but like the thing is, like, they're meat puppets. Like, their job is to read a thing and
they're adult pretenders. They pretend to be things. That's what they are.
And that's not a bad thing if you work in entertainment, but it's a bad thing if your whole job is to be an empty vessel for somebody else, to channel somebody else's vision. And then you go, all right, I'm going to have an opinion, and your opinion are everybody else's opinions around you. And most of those people are like, you know, and they don't live in the real world. A lot of times they live in LA or they live in New York, where they're surrounded by everybody trying to do the same thing. Everybody's in the rat race of trying to get a new job or get the next gig, or everybody wants to be the next major Hollywood star and stuff. It's like, that is not the place to figure out what your political divide is. And I think people are starting to see behind the curtain now, realize, oh, these guys really don't know what they're talking about, and they really kind of are hypocrites. And if I dig deep enough, like I can, yeah, like, you know, Anton was saying, you can hold these people accountable. It's like 15 years ago you were saying this, and now you're saying this. That doesn't add up.
It's a tale
you know?
between two worlds, right? So
Yeah.
traditionally in entertainment, whether you're talking about acting or sports or whatever, those were the spaces where it brought us together and where we could basically forget our differences. And it didn't matter what socioeconomic status that you were. It did not matter what your background was. It didn't even matter what color you were, right? What it did was it gave us a common interest to come in and root for or root against something that wasn't real, right? So when you say, for example, a football game or a basketball game, we both can be fans and we're going to love each other. We're going to tailgate with each other and we're going to all wear the same gear or whatever. And we're going to root against the other city. And it was all in good fun. So it was a place for us to come together and enjoy ourselves. But then what you had was a bunch of these corporations becoming woke. So then they started, you know, infiltrating our movies, and they started infiltrating the entertainment space. And we've seen it on Black Lives Matters during the pandemic, where the whole court, even though now we realize, courtesy of Candace Owens, that it was a sham organization, that it was a Marxist organization, they all had stuff across the back of their jerseys. And you've seen Colin Kaepernick kneeling at the NFL games and stuff like that, right? And so you've seen a division, and it started to force people to pick a side. On top of that, though, you also had the explosion of social media, which we know now that it's not just about whether or not you are good in movies unless you are exceptional, right? If you're an exceptional actor like a Leonardo DiCaprio or a Denzel Washington, people are not necessarily checking for your personal life in order to continue to stay relevant or entertain. You're just exceptional at what you do. Whereas now we have the rise of, you have to be a part of what my life is, because I may not necessarily just be an actor. I may not necessarily be able to sell a record going forward. So my brand is also being able to go across different platforms in order to keep you entertained, so that I can stay relevant in the media's eyes, and I can continue to give you products and get bookings or whatever it is, right? And so that rise, those two different dynamics coming together, started to upend an industry, because now you kind of got to pick a side, or if you say the wrong thing, or if you give too much of what it is that you are within your personal life, which then extends into the political arena, you risk alienating a demographic of your fans that may not like what it is that you stand for. So people are scared, and they're being a lot more careful, because if you are a part of the social media establishment and then you then become a problematic person, it may affect the type of money that you're making. And so I understand it from both dynamics.
That's what I found really interesting, is that the other day, in the last 24 hours, you had Elton John came out, and they were asking him about Trump's Rocket Man tweet, and about basing it off of his song, and about Kim Jong-un. And, you know, what was it? 5 years ago, 4 years? No, 5.5 years ago. When that tweet, you had people going around going, Trump is going to land us in World War III. He's going to start a nuclear war. But Elton John had the ability, like a lot of these other Hollywood celebs, he had the ability to, you know, grab headlines if he trashed Trump. But he didn't go that. He didn't go for the low-hanging fruit. That's what I found interesting. It's almost like he took the high road. I don't know how many people have seen this, but here it is.
I know that you're not a supporter of Donald Trump's. He loves your music. How did it feel when he took the lyrics to Rocket Man and he used it as a nickname for Kim Jong-un, and then he gave Kim Jong-un
I laughed. I thought it was brilliant. I just thought, good on you, Donald. I'm the Rocket Man. Yeah. Donald's always been a fan of mine, and he's been to my concerts many, many times. So, I mean, I've always been friendly towards him, and I thank him for his support. Yeah, when he did that, I just thought it was hilarious. It made me laugh.
He gave Kim one of your CDs and signed it. That was one of the books about him, because Kim, I guess, didn't know the song. So
what's that?
He gave Kim Jong-un the signed CD.
Yes.
You know, which he
well,
never heard of it.
I know, because he hasn't heard of me, Kim Jong-un. I'd be very surprised if he had. I've never toured North Korea, and I have no intention of doing so. But it was. I thought it was a light moment, and it was.
I know that you're not a.
I think what's great about that is he could have, you know, catered to the mainstream media, but he didn't. And it shows Now, is that because Elton John may have a relationship with Trump going before, or is he just being smarter and seeing?
Very simple. Trump can afford the $1,000 front row ticket.
Right, but Trump can afford it for Swift or for anybody else. But you see
No,
here,
no,
the others.
Yeah.
Well, let me give you the let me
he's an
chime
adult.
in on this one. So I think it's two things, right? The first thing is that I think that Elton John is a legend, right? He's one of those type of people where it really doesn't matter at this point, and he's made so much money that it doesn't matter what he says. That he may be a little bit more liberal, but then it leads into my second point is that y'all got to remember that most of these people were friends of Trump.
Right.
Yeah,
Turned
a lot of
against
them.
him. Like when you think about Oprah loved Trump. She absolutely adored, to the point to where he appeared on her show
So did
multiple different
Whoopi.
times. He appeared on her show multiple times, and even when he first started floating around the idea, way back when he would say, "I'm gonna run for president of the United States of America," he said that Oprah is going to be my VP. I would love for her to be my vice president. And so, you think about a lot of these people, even going back to Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton, the whole black community that then turned out to go against him, depending on what it is that they feeling at that particular time or what interests that they have. They all loved him. He was a superstar in the eyes of the majority of people, and he donated to both liberal and conservative causes and conservative candidates. And so these people turned against him. Occasionally, you may see it, Elton John, and he'll say, Trump has loved my music for a long time. That means that he's loyal, or he has a sense of loyalty, and he hasn't turned against him just because he became president of the United States of America, because he's no different than he's already been. These people just switch up, and that's how you know that you don't really have any friends in the industry.
Gotcha. So you think it's different though with The Rock, who came out? It's been a while since I've heard a celebrity actually mention the assassination attempt, but he actually went for it.
He used to come watch you wrestle all the time. Madison Square Garden. It was great. First time I saw him, I said, "Let me see the eyebrow." God, there it is. That's cool. So he was a fan. He watched you as a fan. Oh, yes. Yeah, that's cool. He used to come to Madison Square Garden all the time. Big whether you loved him.
Oh, they cut it. Hold on.
So him standing up.
Oh, here it is.
Despite it being who we were in that moment, I still believe in my core that is not who we are as a country. So him standing up in that moment, we wanted to see that.
So do you think, is that similar to Elton John? And The Rock obviously is not a legend. He's a Hollywood celebrity. I'm trying to figure out, because I'm starting to see some celebrities who are either remaining silent during this election cycle or backing someone behind the scenes, or starting to be nice to Trump.
We have heard that there was a lot of silent, supporters of his back in the day, because why would they come out and say anything? Because they would get canceled if they did. And yeah, I think after the assassination attempt, that helped a lot of people finally come out and say, you know what, enough's enough. And again, I just want to point out, and on behalf of Paul Chato and myself, don't forget that basically actors are celebrated whores. Okay, so let's not forget that. Okay, so exactly. No, so they're going to do whatever the hell you tell them to if you give them money. And some of these people give money to them. Like, let's not forget how much Mark Hamill supposedly paid in, like Scientology, to get to go meet Biden. Right? So the obsession goes both ways here too on this part.
And don't forget the Rock, he endorsed Biden the first time.
He did the first time.
And then he publicly denounced it. He denounced that. He said he's not going to back anybody this time around. And he made it very public that he's not going to back Biden again.
Right, but is he doing it because it's smart business? Is he seeing, like the
thing is, we knew already that there was like things being floated around about him running for president one day. And he admitted on Joe Rogan he had gotten approached by political people and they had talked to him and stuff. Like the reality is, even with all of that pandering he did, and if you watch that interview, he really like stays on the fence as hard as he can about every possible subject that is brought up. It damaged his brand. Like, people were like, yo, we already aren't liking your movies. He tried to take over DC. That didn't go well for him. And then you know what he did? He went right back to the WWE. And you know what he did? As soon as he got back there, he turned heel, started going F you to the audience again. And they went, oh my God, it's about time you picked a side one way or another. Like, stop trying to be, and so I think the reality is he goes, you know what? I tried to pander this way, I tried to pander that way. It wasn't really working. Sitting on the fence isn't really working for me. And so he probably talked to his manager and they said, what do we do? They go, you know what? You need to embrace something here. Like you gotta pick up one of the sides here. And I think the reality is, one, these people have already seen the economic impact. Like these celebrities are like leaving LA in droves. They're all moving to different places. Like Chris Evans, his house in LA is sitting empty because he moved to New York because he doesn't want to live there. Like they all know that this is not going well for them. They're losing money.
Well, they asked for this.
They did.
Yeah, they did.
But because somebody paid them to say, yo, you gotta, this is the way to think about things in a way, but they're the ones that stand to lose the most. If you're, they walk around and talk about tax the rich. I'm like, you're the rich. You just got paid like $50 million. Like, who are you talking to?
I don't, but most of these people know that it's never going to hit them. Even if you say tax the rich, it doesn't matter. You're never going to affect what it is that anybody that has a significant net worth has going on at all. When they say tax the rich, they're really telling you they're going to tax the middle class.
I think Dave Chappelle had the best line during his monologue at one of his SNLs, where he said he was against Donald Trump until he became filthy rich, and now he's all for him.
That's the guy that's going to make you the most money. That's the guy that's going to, because
I thought that was the most honest thing anyone said.
You have to be insanely talented to pull off picking a side. You have to be. Otherwise, you have to just have to shut up and be quiet. If you start picking a side, it is absolutely going to affect your bottom line. If you are a middling actor, if you're a middling athlete, any of that type of stuff, you go against the grain, you are going to be listed as problematic. And it's
you know what I like to see? I like to see when these celebrities are doing their interviews for just one of them to say, you know what, man, I don't want to talk about my politics.
Yeah, Anthony Hopkins.
Keep it pushing.
Not just that. I mean, I remember back in the 90s, they did the whole MTV Rock the Vote thing. You didn't hear him going out there, rock the vote for Clinton or rock the vote for Bush, right? It was just rock the vote. Sure, we knew most of them were probably lefties. But that wasn't the point. The point was they were just trying to get young kids off their butts to go out there and vote, right? That was at least the main point of that. And I had no problems with that. I don't think anybody had any problems with that.
Well, part of the problem, too, is nobody throws in a couple of policy items as to why they happen to be picking that person. And I agree with you. No one should bother. But if someone said, well, I'm going for, Kamala because of her 1952 Nicaragua statement in and then her when she did that speech in Budapest on the no one's smart enough to be able to pick out some major policy elements.
But you're missing a part, though. The audience is going to turn on you no matter what, because most of the people that follow them aren't smart enough to care about whether or not the policy.
No, I completely agree with you. Listen, I'm not arguing with that. It's just like
but I see what he's saying. Like you ask,
these are emotion. People are doing everything through emotion. Is my point.
Correct.
Yeah, you ask people now, like, you ever seen these videos where like they'll ask, who are you voting for? And they're like, Kamala. Well, why are you voting for Kamala? Well, their first answer is always because she's a woman.
Yeah,
because it's about time we had a black woman running the country. Like that's the
number
one
woman
answer.
Or she's black. Those are the two reasons why.
That's right. No, we need a Canadian educated woman in the White House. That's what we need. And if you don't know Kamala's background, she was educated.
The problem is that no one. I guarantee you, if you were just to go on the street with your cell phone and ask 10 people why they're voting for Kamala, you will not get an answer. You will not get a real answer.
People have been diving into the anti-Israel protests and picking people out and saying, why are you at this thing? And they go, well, I don't know.
Well, a lot of those people are paid. A lot of those go to those.
And I got to be really honest. For me, especially when it comes to Kamala Harris, I particularly am very. It's beyond disappointment, man. I think just angry at black media in the way that they treat her and the questions they ask her and how they don't hold her feet to the fire at all, man. They're sitting there asking her how she cooks her greens. I'm like, guys,
right? Because you got to remember, listen, most of these people are trying to get a leg up. They're trying to get some visibility, right? They're trying to get into a position where they can benefit, and any visibility, how they used to say, all social media or all visibility is good visibility. Yeah. They're trying to get their hands into it, right? So when you talk about these people, they friends, they all are part of the same network. Yep. Charlemagne, Ricky Smiley, Steve Harvey,
Yep.
All of these people are all friends, right? They all part of the same fraternities and sororities and all of that, right? And so they're not going to go against their friends,
Right.
under no circumstances. So when we say holding their feet to the fire, you also got to remember the majority of the people that support these people and their audience are a demographic of left-leaning, mostly black women that love Kamala Harris. So why would they use their platform? You have to have somebody that's completely objective. You got to have somebody that don't really care. That's not tied to anybody, that nobody can use or control the amount of money that they making and stuff like that. And so that's what makes people like me a little bit more dangerous, because it's like, wait a minute, you're completely independent. You don't depend on an establishment. You're not dependent on other people in order to form your opinion. I have no problem whatsoever with telling people in my audience or people that's in my chat, hey, I don't really care about your feelings. Like,
well,
I don't care about what you think.
I think there's a problem when people aren't listening to each other. I saw an interview. I can't remember what channel it was, but it was actually about 4 black hosts with who were liberal or who were Democrats with 1 black Republican, and they just wouldn't let him talk. They were all over him. Yeah. And I thought, man, that's unbelievably rude. And the guy was really smart, well-spoken, laid out his reasons for wanting to be voting for Trump, but somehow they said, no, you're not allowed to. That was their implication.
Well, the only way that you can debate with somebody who's more educated than you, that can communicate more effectively than you, is by ganging up on him and his mob rules.
And being very loud. Being very loud.
And that's what happened. That's exactly what happened.
Yeah. Well, and it's so wild to me. Like, I mean, we watched Charlemagne interview and Biden. He said, "You don't vote for me, you ain't black." I'm like, bro, why are we letting these people talk to you like you wouldn't let a single other person in the world talk to you like this?
They wouldn't let Donald Trump get away with that.
No,
Donald Trump said that. Can you imagine?
Bro, and they're running around. I'm like, why are we letting this woman walk around talking about cooking her greens in the bathtub and stuff? Like, what are you talking about?
Oh, you would be
like,
surprised the type of things that you can get away with. The same way that you can get away with that with the community is just like being in a relationship. Like, your girl, you could argue with her today and tell her, hey, I don't like you. You get on my nerve. And then you come and you start rubbing her back and give her a massage. She'll forgive you in the morning.
If you're a porn star and you're not voting for Trump, then, shame on you.
But I think all that, the whole setup for Kamala is so phony. I mean, when you really look at it, come on. I mean, she just did one the other day. And when I was
the union member thing,
I was looking at it, I'm like, how cringe can you go? I mean, it's not believable.
Oh no, that's not it.
Yeah, this is the endorsement from Cheney and all of them.
Good. We're gonna be fine. We're gonna be fine. We are all in this together. Yes, we are. We're gonna be fine.
Oh my God, bro.
Yes,
Oh, lay on hands. Come on, lay hands. Come on, do it.
Yeah, I mean,
well, my thing is this, like, too, a lot of the people, like, every time you see anybody, unless they're a celebrity supporting this woman, like, they're either a bunch of like weird soy celebrity dudes. There's like a bunch of women crying about like, oh my God, I'm so thankful for this woman. It's right. Like, what are we doing? Like, what?
Deal.
Wait, Mike, it gets better.
Now bite her ear.
all good. It's all good.
Just check your pockets first.
Right?
Yeah.
We love our country. Absolutely. Yeah. That's right.
Both of them.
Who's this? This is a relative of yours or just a new friend? It's a new friend. Hi. I'm a lawyer in Pittsburgh here, and I just admire your work so much.
Oh my God.
Consumer protection.
Consumer protection. And then Kamala, what is she? She says something like, well, I was AG. Oh, okay, let's go through your record. See, you need the real reporter to run in front of the camera. Can we talk about your record as AG?
Yeah.
I just would like someone to say, for someone who is South Asian, you don't smell of curry. that would be great.
You just want to go right there.
But you know what? I gotta say something a little bit more controversial right now.
Okay.
I'm sorry. So I have to apologize ahead of time, but I can't help myself. I just say what I think and I mean what I say.
Good.
This is y'all fault, white men. White men, this is your fault. It is no reason why we should even be in a position to even have to vote for this woman in the first place. And what I see outside every day, I went outside yesterday and I went to a festival. I just got done going out both weeks. So I went out to film in Dallas, and what I realized is that more white men are feminists than I could ever imagine.
Oh, no, it's
And I
horrible.
went out to a festival yesterday, and you know what I seen? I seen more white men that were left-leaning, feminists, feminine. They were super feminine men, and they were more or less the people that was saying happy wife, happy life. These guys, you know what? I'm so confused because it's amazing to me how you guys can come over and conquer an entire country. An entire country. You know how brutal you have to be to conquer an entire country? Winner takes all. Listen, this is mine. I'm winning it. We're going to write the Declaration of Independence. We're going to take over this place. We moving y'all to the reservation, and we're going to get a whole nother group of people to build this place.
Now have a
You know how savage you have to be able to do that? And then to have your offspring and the descendants of you to give this country over because you've become feminized, you've become alphabet community, and you want so badly to be like that they villainized you in the people that are under attack the most in this country right now are white men. You are literally considered the bad guy. If you are a white man and you have any position or any level of power, and y'all still remain the largest majority of the United States of America, yet y'all let this country continue to fall into chaos. It's amazing to me. I just cannot for the life of me. And I was having this conversation with a friend. I cannot believe for the life of me that y'all are not holding each other accountable for some of the things that y'all see happening amongst each other. It's wild to me. For me, as an adult 42-year-old black man, to be standing for the values of this country that was established by you guys or your forefathers, and yet you guys let this country continue to go to trash in order to be accepted because y'all so villainized is wild to me.
It is. They've been pussified. I mean, that's the reality. When people refuse to stand up because they go, oh, someone might call me a word, a racist, or a bigot, or a bot, or words have zero power. But people will walk away. They'll tuck their head in the sand, Anton. They'll go, I don't see anything. I don't know anything. I'm just going to live my life. They got comfortable. And what happens when you get comfortable? You get weak. You get soft. You know, I mean, you see it. You grew up in this. You were working in the steel industry at one point.
Correct. 100%. Listen, there was nothing more. And this is one of the reasons why it bothers me, because there was nothing more bothersome to the black community than to have somebody like me that went against the grain. Even now, even as a young kid, or as a 20-year-old, a 30-year-old, I was looked at as a leper from my family and from my community for ever taking a position to say that A, I'm Republican, or B, I continue to believe in this, and I don't know why y'all not questioning that, or so on and so forth. And so we all know, anybody that's in here that's watching this that's black right now, know that you are looked at as a leper if you are a black person that then is even remotely looking at or endorsing a Republican candidate.
Call it what it is. You're a coon.
100%.
You're a coon if you're a black Republican or black conservative.
I've been called some of the craziest things
You are
ever. And
you are a race traitor.
It don't come from people that don't look like me. It come from people that look just like me, that exist in my community. And they go off on me and they say, because I don't believe in the same thing that you believe, or because I believe that I evaluate people based off of the content of their character instead of what it is that they was inherently born as. Because you can't control what you were born as. You can't control who your parents are. I can control what my decisions are and who it is that I rock with, though. And so we're looked at as lepers, but then I see so many guys that don't look like me. And a lot of them share the same position as me, but they're so scared. They're so scared to say anything or to speak up. And it's unfortunate.
Well, let me tell you, it's like, since the last time we had talked, there was something that had happened over the last 2 months. Basically, Tom knows the story. Basically, the company that I worked at insisted that either I change. They found out they're like, this is the guy, he does these YouTube videos. Either he needs to stop doing it or he needs to be fired or we're pulling our business. And I was like, I'm not changing what I'm doing. And they're like, you're going to change it because we're going to wreck your life. I'm like, okay, go get fucked. Pardon my language. That's it. I'm not stopping who I am. But that's rare. It's rare because people got comfortable. Comfort creates weakness. Shit, I was kidnapped at the age of 7. The chat knows it. I got tortured for a year. But Would I trade that in the world? No, it made me stronger. And that taught me character. Where are these guys? You can imagine the children. It's like the video we talked about in the beginning, Anton. The girl you saw. Someone raised her to where she thinks that's okay. Her environment. Right. Well, imagine these kids now where these white parents are sitting there going, Daddy's like got his tail tucked between his leg. He's a beta male who probably has mommy's got a boyfriend in the bedroom that takes strap onto him at night.
Oh, no. That's the thing, too. Listen, I think it's called cucking.
Cucking, yeah.
Oh, God.
That is that. Listen, I know we getting off. I just got to say it.
It's okay.
That is primarily a thing that has come from older white men.
And I'll tell you exactly what happened. We raised a whole generation of kids who got participation trophies, who were never told no, who were told they were mommy's special little angels when they were cutting up in the grocery stores. You weren't allowed to discipline them. Right. And now these people are adults. And now these people have a say in things.
Yeah.
That's what happened.
I just want our white demographic of men to get their households together and stop letting them letting their wives.
If we try, we get called abusive assholes.
Well,
okay. Here's the thing: is you cannot assert yourself anymore, and I'm sure black men really understand this. You cannot assert yourself anymore as a white man without it being "quote unquote" problematic. I've told this story before. I tried returning a record album to Best Buy. They were being dickholes because they didn't have the same record album in stock. So I'm like, well, can't I just exchange it for another one? They're like, no, because it was already opened. I'm like, well, that's not my fault. You don't have another version of this in stock. As I got a little bit more angry, like my voice started raising as I did there, this motherfucker on the other side of the goddamn thing started acting like I was going to fucking start some shit. He's like, do you need me to call the cops and stuff? I'm like, no, I just want my money back or I want a new record. That's all I fucking want. I'm like, what is the problem here? And the motherfucker jumps over the goddamn counter like he's gonna fucking fight me or some shit. Now, mind you, this dude's like half my size, right? And he's like acting like I'm this big, huge dickhead, aggressive male. I'm just like, dude, all I want is...
should have let him find out. You should have.
I was about to. I'm like, go ahead and call the
cops. I don't know why
cops.
you didn't let him figure it out for himself.
I pretty much did. You know what I told him? I'm like, all right, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm just gonna come back when somebody else is working, and that's exactly what I did.
There's a thing that's happened, like. And the thing is, like, growing up, specifically growing up, like when you're poor or you know when you're like disenfranchised or whatever. So certain demographics and like black men get this and stuff like that. You know, you have a problem with somebody, you go and solve it. Like you grew up and that was a reality. Like you go like, yo, okay, I got a problem with this person or like this person's running their mouth or this person's saying stuff and you go handle it. And like, at the end of the day, like that's how guys used to handle stuff. You used to fight each other. And you become best friends with that person afterwards.
Yeah, absolutely. But the thing is, you know, if I were to stand up for myself, I would have been the one getting hauled off the cuffs. You guys know that.
I don't advocate for people to fight or violence. I'm advocating for people to defend themselves, though.
Right.
If somebody does something to you, you cannot. You know what I'm saying? You have the ability to be able to defend yourself. Now, I think that we have to become a lot wiser in a way that we handle things, because I can embarrass you just by the way that I deal with you and talk to you, and I can read the room. So that's just a different thing, right?
I just want to pipe in as a 70-year-old, as I'm happily married with two great kids that I've never had any issues with. Okay. I'm very happy. But the thing that I requested and we both agreed on was we both have our roles that we need to fulfill. But one of the key roles was each of us had to agree on how we were going to discipline the kids. Like there was the worst thing in the household is that you got good cop, bad cop. No, we didn't have that in our household. We were both bad cop.
Yep.
Good.
And that's what happened. And if my wife said something I didn't agree with, I would agree with her in front of the kids and vice versa.
Right.
So the kids did not see, and that is the worst thing you can do for your.
No, I 100% agree with that.
The other thing that I was, which drove my parents nuts, is that, especially my kids nuts, especially my son, was I was the no second chances dad. You didn't do it once. That's it. No, there's none. No, I'm not. You're not going to get a second chance on anything ever.
Yeah.
So you do it right the first time or whatever, and then but you know what? As a person who's run multi-million-dollar companies, one of the things I learned and I applied to my parenting, not that I want to talk about this, is that if we are going into a situation, the worst thing parents do is react when something bad happens, as opposed to anticipating when something bad might happen. Read the rules to the kids ahead of time. We're going into this store. This is the expectation I have of your behavior. If you do not behave this way, I'm taking you out.
I love that. I think
so then you've got a moral right to do the bad thing. You've got the moral right to discipline. You've told them ahead of time, this is what's going to happen. I don't see people parenting. What I do see is people pretend parenting.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to act like friends, Chato. That's
and that's what I told my kids. I told my kids, I am not your friend.
You gotta have respect.
My mom used to tell me that all the time. She goes, listen, I'm not your friend.
I'm not your friend.
Like, we can be friendly with each other, but I'm not your friend. You don't talk to me like I'm one of your friends.
Correct.
You don't talk to adults like you're one of their friends. Like, you talk to adults with respect. I mean, I grew up in an age where it was Mr. and Mrs. and you talk to, and like nowadays, like people use it. I never even conceived. It was one of the worst things. Like, I couldn't wait till I became like 18, 20, so I could use another adult's first name and not have my mom give me the side eye, because that was unheard of. You don't ever do that.
Well, we were raised a little bit differently. Like, we were one of the last traditionally raised generations, right? And this is one of my favorite things I used to say about our generation. Our generation was, you were never scared of the cops so much. You were just afraid they were going to take you home so your parents would beat your ass.
Exactly.
Not so much nowadays. The cops show up because your parents beat your ass. That's the problem.
Yeah. But that's the thing. Yeah, that was the threat from cops, like local cops where I grew up. They're like, yo, I'm going to tell your mom. And you're like, oh, man, please. Like,
you're like, take my ass to jail. Do not tell my mother.
With the cops, please do not tell my parents. Like, just arrest me, hit me with a taser. Please don't tell my mom.
Fucking shoot me. Whatever you do, just don't tell my dad.
Let me finish off with one fundamental thing that has changed in society that is not helpful is we will all agree that being a parent does not come with a manual.
That's correct.
And
no, absolutely
not all parents know or do know how to parent. But back when I was a kid,
they used to teach
there was this societal set of rules that were never spoken of. That even if my parents did a shitty job of raising me, and I'm just going to use this as a simple example, when the street light went on, all the kids I was playing with automatically went home.
Yep.
Like, it was just a thing. Like, I don't know who said it. I don't know where it came from the ether. It was a magical mystery thing that the light went on. Society itself had a set of rules that made parents who weren't very good better parents. That part is gone. That ephemeral mystery haze that helped parents be parents, that is busted.
Well, there's a communal thing about that too, Paul. Sorry,
that's what I'm saying. Yes, it's communal.
Well, the reality is, there was a truth to the fact that, like, even if you weren't a good parent, if you stood on whatever moral ground that you had, if you said, I'm consistently this way, whether you're a great parent, a good parent, or a bad parent, you can always look back and go, you know what? But they were always consistent.
Yeah,
I always had consistency in my life, and that was what I was saying. Well, what I was getting to is, like, it's not about violence, but it's about consequences actions have consequences. And that was always the reality growing up. Like, if I did a thing, I knew there was going to be a consequence to it. If I was acting a fool as a kid, I was going to have consequences when I got home with my mother. And that's the thing. It's like nowadays, a lot of parents are scared to have any consequences for their kids. And there's been a push. And this is the thing, like, my mom told me about this. And this is something that recently came out too. Like, certain television shows I wasn't even allowed to watch because of how disrespectful kids were to their parents on television shows. My mom's like, I don't want you watching that stuff. And nowadays, they even came out, there was a documentary about Nickelodeon. They're like, yeah, they were intentionally sowing discourse among kids and their parents. They were letting these kids mouth off to their parents and stuff like that. And these kids grew up watching this going, I could talk to my parent like that. Like, and I'm like, dude, never.
Mike's right. I mean, my kid, I called my kid's generation the fuck you mom generation.
It is, because you've had companies in Hollywood like Disney who produce one product after the other. Well, what do you see? mom and dad are fools and morons. The kid knows everything. It's over and over and over. The reality is, you don't teach consequences. You coddle kids, you end up with cucks who don't know what the hell they're doing. Then they get told. No.
Well,
That's it. From coddle to cuck.
I mean, even before I became a parent.
One second. Because the fact is, it's very simple. How do you take over society? Divide and conquer.
And you weaken the men.
And you weaken the men. When you don't have warriors, you just walk over everybody. Then you have a new generation, just like Pol Pot did in Cambodia. Kids turned in their parents. Kids killed parents when they were told to. That's what happens in a communist or dictatorial socialist system. That's reality. Stalin, Pol Pot, Mao.
We never did that because I knew that our parents was really first of all, it's so funny because when we would see that happen, and we would usually see, honestly, it would be a white kid cussing out their parents and all of this. Or it would happen. It would happen in a grocery store, right, where they would tear their parents what they don't want to do. Yep. And we knew better because she was try that if you want to. That's going to be a problem. It's so interesting because
and you get a whooping because of that kid.
Even let's say, for example, because I think that every kid growing up thought about running away. As dumb as it sounds. And if we was to ever tell on our parents were like, okay, go ahead. But no, you dying when I get out of jail. When I get out of jail, I'm taking you out. And I'm taking and they just, because listen, you never gonna disrespect me while I got breath in my body. So
there you go.
It was just some extreme consequences that came along with
there's also the experience that your parents had that most parents these days don't have. I say it's a blessing that my dad was in World War II, survived it, and my mom was in the ghetto, the Budapest ghetto.
Yep.
I view that as a blessing. They got out by the skin of their teeth. My daughter would bring home unbelievably ornery girls, and not that I want to depress this conversation, but my mother escaped from Hungary at night, going from safe house to safe house, under the threat of Soviet soldiers sniping them to death because they were shooting flares up into the sky constantly to try to stop Hungarians from escaping Hungary in 47, 48. And the thing is, my mom went with a minder and 3 other women, and one woman had a baby. And the rule was if the baby cried, the mother would have to strangle the baby or
it happened. It's because they were trying to survive.
Because the most, who the most important was of the 4 of them was the minder, the person who knew where the safe houses were, the person who could get hundreds more Hungarians out of the country. There was no John Wayne coming to their rescue at the last moment.
You had to be John Wayne. You had to be John Wayne. That's the point.
Yes, that's right. And I'm the woman. It happened. The baby cried. The woman did what she needed to do. The baby was left behind. They buried it. It was horrific. And the woman never cried. She went off with the woman. It's a horrific thing. And anytime I tell this story to when I used to tell it at schools and to my daughter's friends, they would be bawling, with tears. And the thing is, that's the horrific life people had at the time. None of us have that life.
No.
Right, but that happens to every country empire that goes over about 200 years. You hit the teenage phase. Yes. But it's funny what Anton was saying. You were talking about how parents would treat you like when you're in the grocery store. One time my mom, because we're Greek, we did see this kid. He was running around the store. It was Toys R Us, just running like a madman. And he threw a temper tantrum on the floor. He's like, Mommy, it's like he wanted some kind of G.I. Joe or something. And she's like, you can't get it. You can't get it. And he just like The Exorcist, the only thing that didn't happen, his head didn't spin.
Yeah. But what's so funny about that? If you look at that kid like, I dare you, like they'll respect you, but they'll continue to disrespect their parent.
Right.
And I think that you had a point where you were saying that basically we live in a society where we all privileged. Like, it's so weak. What we think is going through something is nothing. Compared to what people really go through in real life that have no other options but to try to figure out how to survive. And so
see, the problem is we are to blame for that though. Generation X, we're the ones who raised those kids. You know, I mean, I hate to say it, but it's true. I mean, you know, people love to brag about Gen X.
We raised that generation with our hands behind our back.
Well, they love to brag about how cool Gen X is and that whole deal, but we're the ones who raised those bratty motherfuckers. Like we're the reason why society is the way it is today.
Yeah, but I'll just tell you one thing. I looked at that kid. I didn't even get to turn around.
Yep.
And my mom's like, whack. I'm like, what was that for? It's like, because I know what you were thinking. You're going to pull that same crap. I was like, preemptive. I was like,
well, that's what Mike was saying earlier. Is some of us would get our ass beaten for the way another kid would act sometimes.
Yeah, why am I getting for that kid's actions? He's like,
but no, that's part of the problem. The big part of the problem is here's this. Now, if we were to see the behavior you were just talking about, because I've had the same experience too. I've had the same experience on the other end as a parent. I was embarrassed as fuck. I drug my kid out of so many stores and shit, kicking and screaming because of the reasons why you guys just said. But I can't believe it when we live in a society now though, where if like me seeing like a mother struggling with like a couple of young kids, if I as an adult said, hey, you better listen to your mom, Santa Claus won't come and see you this year. Instead of her going, thank you, like they used to, she would turn around and go, don't talk to my children like that.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? That's the fucking problem right there. It's not so much the kids, it's the parents. You're right. You're 100% right.
And it's the parents also, because they haven't taught the kids to be self-functioning and capable of.
Well, they don't know any respect. Yeah.
They don't, but it's the respect. They need to figure it out on their own, because as Barbara Colorosa said, that if you are constantly disciplined and telling your kid what to do, then all they're going to do is when they become a teenager is find a parent replacement.
Correct.
They need to have their own self-worth. I mean, I remember when my daughter fell to the floor in the mall and she was like screaming and her arms were going. And so I went, okay, what am I going to do? I could grab her and take her out. I said, no, I'm going to lie down next to her. So I laid down next to her, looked at the mall ceiling, and I went, wow, Haley, you know, I've never looked at the mall from this angle. And then within a second, I heard her go, Dad, get up. What do you mean? I really like it here. Dad, you're embarrassing me. I went, oh, what's the problem? And then she got up, pulled me up, and that was it. We were done. And she never did it again.
At the store.
And she never did it again, but it was her decision to stop. I didn't make her stop.
I tried that shit, but with an autistic kid, it's not as easy.
No. It's an autistic kid. It doesn't do it.
How many kids also work today at a young age?
That's just it. I had a job when I was 13 years old.
Yeah, me too. I had that in my school. It's like I worked on the cleaning crew every day. That was my very first job. Mom's like, you got to get a job. I'm like, it's like 12 years old. It's like, got to get a job. You got to learn. You got to be a man. How many kids today are told that you have to prepare to be a man?
Right.
Because the problem is you can't even say that. You can't even say be a man anymore without it being toxic, right? Because just that term "be a man" is toxic now.
Yeah,
right.
And what it applies to.
I agree with you. Yeah,
and I was going to say that earlier, and you guys brilliantly, brought up the points I was going to, so I didn't even have to. But yeah, you're 100% right. The problem is you can't even speak about being masculine anymore. You can't act masculine anymore. You can't do any. We have demasculized our society so much. That's the problem. I know. I wish I could say who. And you're right. It's 100% our fault.
Who's going to tell me what to do? Who's going to tell me what to do? I think that there's a genuine desire from people and even women, not just young men, from women. They're looking for leadership.
Absolutely.
Listen, you could sit here and listen to what women say as much as you want to. But what I know for sure, one thing is for sure and two things is for certain, is that women operate differently when they get in front of a man that have leadership qualities and is not going for the BS. She get in line. I think that young boys and young men are wishing. When I have these conversations, it's women that will contact me and say, hey, listen, can you just talk to my son for an hour? They will pay me for an hour of my time just to have a conversation with their kid. These young kids, they are gleaning, they are wishing, they are pining for leadership and for a man to actually have some kind of conversation in their lives. And so I don't know who can tell me what. You can't tell me.
Right, but you are already a man, Anton. We're talking about the masculinity is being literally drilled.
No, I'm talking about
drilled out of these boys at
somebody
school,
that's telling me
on a school level.
You listen, you're never going to tell me toxic masculinity. You can't.
I agree. I'm as toxic as fuck if we're going to talk about toxic.
I can't walk outside and act like this. That's the problem.
Nobody can ever shame me
But what
and
we're saying is
tell me
the
or make me
generation
feel
below
bad
us,
at
like
all.
the kids, they're losing there is being drilled out of young boys to not be boys,
Yeah,
to not be
I agree
masculine.
with that. But I'm just saying, as far as like, look, you can't bully me into not being a man. Like I am what I am, and when they say, "Oh man, you need to do gentle parenting or toxic masculinity," I am. I'm toxic as hell. I like looking at beautiful women as they walk by, even if my girl is with me. Like I like
They're
brutal
beautiful.
sports. I like brutal sports, and in my spare time, I also watch the Animal Planet channel and see the circle of life of lions killing the cubs of their opponent when they get done defeating them. This is not toxic. This is what's called being a man. You know what I'm saying? Like I like one of my favorite movies is Saving Private Ryan.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like you're not going to sit here and tell me that inherently who I am is a problem. That's how this world was built. And so I'm not meant to be you. And you certainly as a woman is not meant to be me. So stay in your place. And yes, I am absolutely going to do some of the things that you don't like, but you're gonna love me for it when I get home because I'm not gonna compromise who I am as a man.
I'm glad you're here, Anton, because Robert Myers Burnett needs a good male influence.
He does. He really does. No, and you're preaching to the fucking choir here, but the problem is yeah, society won't allow that.
Well, there's
Yeah, they won't allow that, man. I look.
It's
I've
not
been.
allow. I think what Anton is saying, it's not allow. It's you be you. You don't take allow. You continue living yourself.
I totally get canceled every other week.
I totally agree with that. But here's the problem, George. The problem is guys like us, this group right here, we're all grown ass men, right? They know they can't get to us. Right. We're already what we are. But what they're trying to do is kill the younger generation, man. They're trying to program the younger generation. So all these young pussies you see now is because of the school system. It's because of entertainment. It's because of all that. They're telling young boys not to be men.
But I think that's a blessing in disguise because if you are a guy, it's a blessing in disguise for the guy that wound up being a man's man. Because if you are that guy that exudes and operate within his masculinity, and I'm not telling you got to walk around with your shirt off all day. But what I am telling you is that if you are a person that carry yourself, that show certain values, you will win in every single category in life. When you stop compromising, you start focusing on what makes the most sense for you, and you dedicate yourself to what means the most to you and how you can become great and all of that stuff. You embrace your masculinity. You will 100% win in every aspect of life. You will win with women. You will win in corporate America. You will win in business. You will realize that nobody cares about your feelings and it ain't about what somebody can give you. You will become the greatest version of yourself. So don't think that it's a bad thing. The more that they feminize all of these young guys, the greater it is for you to separate yourself from them, and you're gonna really become a king amongst little kids.
But see, the way I'm thinking though is, I guess I'm thinking more on the world stage, right? Because I feel like, and you know, I every Saturday, you know, I just kind of chill and smoke a little weed and have these thoughts. But I was thinking the other day, like, here's the thing, man. If we continue to get weaker as a country, if the men continue to get weaker, at what point do our enemies say, okay, now's the time?
Well, you're starting to see it in New York.
Chicago, now's the time.
Venezuelan gangs. It just happened in Texas.
What's with these Venezuelan gangs?
That's what scares
that
me.
Shit would have happened 30 years ago? No fucking way.
What's happening, Paul? It's very simple because you have, like what Verbal was saying, you have from schooling, from education, accept that good is bad, bad is good. West Texas oil fields. Venezuelans are going and ripping off the oil fields with these water tankers. People who were reporting it were chased by Venezuelan gangs. And then the Texas Rangers showed up. And the whole thing is like, okay, this is how the cow ate the cabbage. This is fucking Texas. This is not New York. People are armed. 2 guys ran, 10 show up with rifles. It's just the way it goes. But it's happening because people are weak. Why? You go to a home in Los Angeles. There's a guy, he did TikTok videos about it. He was from Venezuela. He's like, let me show you how to take somebody else's home. You watch, they go on vacation. It's a $2 million home. You go and you squat. You learn the rights. What are they going to do to you? Beat the shit out of you? They'll go to jail. So they've played the system. You have weak people already in it. They take advantage of it. Nobody stands up to it. Guess what?
You could try that. You could try that with one of my properties. No, I mean you really can. You could really try it. I hope that works out for you.
Once again,
I'm betting on me.
There's a reality to, like, so you come. you're raised by a generation, you know, that's once removed from a world war. You know, my grandfather was in World War II, and so he taught his kids, you know, and taught my mom and my aunts and uncles and stuff. The reality is, if you live in a generation that doesn't have conflict like that and doesn't know how to do that, the only thing you can look at is stories. And we've seen that. And this is what, I mean, this is part of the huge reason why we're all here, is because of storytelling and stories. And the thing is, like, there's been a massive push to remove men and remove male father figures and male figures that can be looked up to in television and movies. There's been a massive push to create females, you know, female heroes and give women and stuff to look up to. And there's been a massive push to make men incompetent idiots who are incapable of doing anything.
There are men in our military dressed like women right now. In our military, in the Marines, wearing skirts. We are ripe for the taking.
But
I would love to just walk around doing whatever, you know, you just said too. But the problem is they're changing laws all the time to try and make it harder and harder for us to do these things.
Who are the legislators, right? The legislators are a reflection of the people that voted them in.
Yep.
And so when you see this happening, whether it's in an urban community or it's out in California with Gavin Newsom, or you look at all of these different mayors and these people that are making the laws, they are a reflection of the people that vote for them. So in a way, I could say, yeah, you know, it's messed up and this is what society has become. But then at the same time, I also have to say we deserve it. I think that we deserve everything that we're going to get. If this country becomes more feminized, if we get ran over by our opponents, when I see a city that has to raise their property taxes because they voted in a mayor that was completely incompetent, I don't tell people to move away from the city. I say, y'all deal with your own problems because this is what you voted for. And so I'm cool with it. I have no problem whatsoever. If we get overran, it's our time is up. It's over. We just go ahead and throw in the towel. That's it for us. I'm not tripping about it. And more importantly, I'm not moving because this is my country. And so I'm going to do what I do, and I'm going to fight for my country, and I'm going to stand up for what I stand up for. And if as a group, as a whole, we get overran and we get took over, we deserve it. That's where I stand.
But I've come into this amazing conversation. I figure I wanted to chime in. You know, one of the things that I see that's different now from when I was younger was it was instilled in me, especially by my dad, that when I walked out of the house, the world was going to smash me in the face.
Yeah.
And that when you walk out that front door, you got to expect anything can happen to you. And you have to have the tools to be able to deal with it, whether it's emotional, whether it's physical. And my dad instilled in me the idea of, you know, your job is to build things. And I don't mean literally physically build things, although that was part of it, but to build coalitions with people, to build understanding with people, to go out and because you need people to help you accomplish goals and learn how to parlay or learn how to play politics and learn how to gather people around you. And nowadays, people aren't even, we're not taught, our young people are not taught to go out into the world and deal with it. You know, even things like driving. You know, when I was 16 years old, everyone I knew got a driver's license at 16. It was a rite of passage. And what that meant was independence.
Freedom.
So you could go anywhere you wanted. I could pick my friends up and go see a movie. I could drive from my suburb into downtown Seattle where I grew up. And suddenly the city was not some mythical place that would elude me. I could go there, and I started doing that. I started hanging out in downtown Seattle and doing all of these things. Now everyone has been, I mean, our entire culture, I understand the impulse to try and be nice to everybody. I think that's a good impulse, but at the same time, you can be nice to everybody, but also be assertive. We have a whole generation of people that barely know how to tie their shoes.
Yep.
And this is something that, and they're all on medication. If you don't feel good, take a pill.
Yep.
I didn't have that when I was a kid. You know, and when something came home, one of my favorite kids' books when I was a child was a book called Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day.
Oh, yeah.
And they made it into a movie. But at the end of that book, this kid has a really horrible, bad day. And he says to his mother that he's had this terrible day. And his mother says, well, some days are like that. And I always thought that was a great lesson to learn because you have to weather that storm and you have to get out there. And we are not, I mean, look, we don't even let kids keep score when they're playing sports for fear. I went to watch my nephew play soccer, and they wouldn't let the kids keep score. And the funny thing is, the kids are keeping score, but the parents, we don't want kids to feel bad.
Yeah, because they're going to feel bad. One
Why?
second, Rob, because you have a great conversation. Anton has to leave. I just want to do his outro. No, just 1 second. We'll pick this right back up. Thank you, Anton, for coming.
I appreciate you guys. Thank y'all for having me.
I missed
No,
out.
absolutely.
Good to see you, man.
Thank you.
You have a wonderful day. Everybody go, every bag chaser here, salute to you. Everybody else, please go check out Anton Daniels. Yes.
Hey, y'all, tell George to invite me back.
Hell yeah.
Yeah,
anytime. Anytime.
Absolutely.
Hey, are you going to be doing the debate? Are you going to be watching
just
the
beat a
debate?
lot
I
of us to it.
absolutely am going to be live streaming the debate. 100.
Really? You doing a panel?
I don't know yet. I don't know how I'm gonna set it up. I got to figure it out over the next couple of days.
Hey, anytime you need a dissenting voice, man, put me on because
all right.
If you do that, Anton, if you do a panel for the debate, call me.
Okay.
All right. Cool. All right.
All right.
Thank
I'll
you,
let
my
you guys
friend.
know.
All
Appreciate
right.
you, bro. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now, sorry about that,
Oh,
Rob.
I owe you
Please
an email.
continue. Yes, call. Please go on what you were saying.
Yep.
You were saying that how you had read that book. Remember, Rob? I didn't want. It's for you. I wanted you to pick up where you're going. I didn't want to interrupt you. He just wanted to.
Well, I was going to say, like, when I was younger, for instance, general education. I went to a public school. It was a good public school, but people got educated for its own sake. And the more of a general education you had, the more you knew about the world, the more you were capable of interacting. Kids, I started working multiple jobs when I was 13 years old. And what I was going to say about like not getting driver's license, the thing about driver's license too, it's not just independence, but when you're out in the world driving a car, you're very aware that there are all kinds of people around you also on the freeway. You learn things like when you pull into a gas station, you learn etiquette. You learn to deal with if there's people in front of you, you learn how to wait for a pump. If you go in and you talk to somebody to buy a snack or whatever, you're interacting with people. Yep. You're constantly, and driving, nothing makes you more aware that there is an outside world around you than being in traffic in Los Angeles Friday afternoon traffic.
Oh God, yeah.
We are not teaching people how to cope with the world outside, whatever cocoon they're living in. Yep. And I'm talking about from a very early age, and the fact that kids are resilient. They're used to getting knocked down and they get right back up. They're used to, and we're not doing this. And the toxic masculinity thing I mean, it's such a strange, it's such a weird thing. I mean, I don't. From what I was growing up, like I said, my dad told me the world is a difficult place to be in. And you should never expect when you walk outside that door, things are going to be easy.
Well, they're not prepared, Robert, anymore. Come on. When I saw dodgeball was outlawed at a school that I went to, I'm like, what are you talking about? I had rang up and I was asking one of the teachers who I still knew. And I was like, what's going on? Well, it hurts the kids. It's too competitive. I'm like, you understand life is going to flatten them. You gotta thicken your skin. You gotta be ready for the battle.
Better for them to learn what it feels like to get hit in the face by a ball than get hit in the face by an actual person.
Yeah,
it's not about being violent, but
no.
The world itself is violent. Nature is violent, and the threat of violence is what keeps you on your toes, and it makes you respond a certain way. You don't go running up to people in the street and acting a fool. And this is unique to the United States, but other places it's not happening, other countries and stuff. But like in the United States, not to run up on people and act a fool in the street because that guy might have the great equalizer in his belt. Wait, you don't know.
I actually have a really great story about that. That happened to me yesterday. Yeah. The area I live in Los Angeles, it's one of those areas that back in the 80s and 90s was a very bad area, but got gentrified and it's a little nicer now. But it's still LA. You get what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And the local market, which is about a few blocks from my house, is owned by this nice little Mexican family. I go there every other day and pick up some things, and I walk because I like walking around my neighborhood. You know what I mean? And I walked to the store yesterday, like any normal day. Went to the store. I was on my way home. And, there was this little stocky Mexican guy who was walking towards me, tattoos on his face, and he was on his phone. And, I moved over a little bit to the side just to make sure, I was out of his way or whatever, because it looked like he wasn't paying attention. Somehow he still found a way to bump into me. So I turned around and I looked at him like, man, you okay? You good? And he got really riled up, got in my face. And this guy was like 5'6", real stocky though. And my instinct was like, okay, look, here's the thing, man. I'm not opposed to fighting at all. So if you want to do this, we can do this right now.
Yeah.
But in that brief second, I thought, okay, I'm in LA. They have pretty much incentivized crime here.
Yes.
This guy could have a shiv, a knife, a gun on him, face no consequences whatsoever. If he were to shoot me, stab me, he'd probably go to jail for a week and they let him out. Is this worth it? So I literally just said, you know what, man? My bad. And I diffused it. And, he was still wanting to get in my face, but
there's nothing wrong with that. You took that's strategic. I mean, if he forced you to fight, you'd fight. There's a difference between yeah, you're a man there, you're intelligent, using your brain. If you have to, you can throw down. That's
but I had to think about it because, like Mike said, man, you don't know these days, man.
Yeah,
and in LA, crime is practically incentivized here now.
Did you hear one of El Chapo's former lieutenants? It was a year ago. I have to find the video. He said he was in Santa Monica. He was in Santa Monica, right? And he was furious. Like, live at that. Whatever had happened, I didn't get the gist of why he was pissed, but this guy was pissed. You know what he was doing driving around? Waiting for one person to honk at him. One. He says, I was waiting for one person. Like, he would purposely sit on the on the green light and go on red. He was like, I was waiting for one person on green to honk at me so I can get out of my car and shoot him. And that was the trigger for him.
And you never know now, and that you don't know. And so you got to be a little bit smarter in the way that you interact. And here's the thing. I feel like because I'm very well-rounded, I had to just bite my pride. Because believe me, even as I walked away, I was like, I wanted to thrash this guy. I was like, no. Because you know what? At the end of the day, when am I really going to get from this?
Right.
When am I going to gain from this?
But I would say this. That experience shows that you have experienced yourself and how to deal with situations. Yeah. You handled it correctly. You gave that guy nowhere to go. I mean, sometimes you run into a problem you can't handle. You have to. There's nothing you can do to defuse the situation.
Sometimes it's nothing you did. He's just having a bad day. Exactly.
Yeah, and you did the right thing. But the fact is, you were out in the world, walking around, and you were out making that a priority. Why are you going to drive? The thing about look, I live in a smaller town that I can walk around in. I like walking around.
Yeah, same.
Just to see, like, I looking around, seeing things. Just wow, how did somebody mow their lawn, or how did somebody?
The sun yesterday you put on your Instagram that.
Oh my! Well, yeah, that was insane. I mean, there's this. They haven't contained it at all. I was driving around because it was crazy. There was a thunderstorm that put out some of this fire. And it looked like the apocalypse was happening.
Is it gone today?
No,
still burning.
Yeah, it's even bigger today, and they haven't contained it. And now it's burning up into the hills toward Lake Arrowhead. And it's 100. It was 115 degrees yesterday, and it just looked like this. So I went out again. I'm like, I got to go out and find a high ground where I can get the sun and I can take a picture and I put it on Instagram. But there's that quote. I don't know if you've already used it today, but Michael Hoff's. He wrote a post-apocalyptic novel called Those Who Remain, and he says it's a famous quote: "Hard times create strong men. Strong men create good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times."
Hard time, yeah.
And we're kind of there. I mean, the fact that our military is woefully undermanned right now, and only 23% of military-age men can even qualify to be in the military.
Yeah. Because it is horrible. They can't do most of the training, and the Marines have lowered their standards recently, and it's just they can't get anyone. They can't recruit anyone. The people they're recruiting, we really don't want. I'm going to read some super chats real quick before, and then we'll get back to it because it's been about an hour. I don't want people waiting much longer, and there's no producer today, so I'm doing it on my own. So bear with me. We got Irvy Tart gifted 5 Georgia Chain Slayer memberships. Please, everybody, thank Irvy Tart. Thank you, Irvy Tart. This is how we keep growing. We keep getting bigger. And membership has its privileges. I really appreciate it. That is very kind of you. Talitha 34 gifted 10 George the Giant Slayer memberships. What a beautiful thing. I love seeing that. I'm going to put music to this next time as everybody starts gifting these memberships. Because I got to tell you, it keeps the lights on, helps us grow, and then most importantly, gets your voice out there. Thank you, Talitha. And I saw Irving Hart. She became a YouTube member. So you became a YouTube member first, then you gifted everybody. That's a really kind heart. I love it. Love it. Big D for 10 Canadian dollars. There's always, hey, that's from Paul Chato's neck of the woods. You got one of your friends here.
Yes. The one Canadian willing to watch you.
Hey, thank you. I know you're trying to escape Trudeau. He may not win your election this time. There are always consequences when you do something good and bad. Goal was to teach my son to think about those consequences. Absolutely. That's what great moms do. That's what great moms do. Eric Heffelfinger for $5. My parents told me participation trophies didn't mean you did good or earned it. It meant you at least tried despite failure, and that's what's important. My parents told me participation trophies didn't mean you did good or earned it. It meant you at least tried despite failing. Yeah, I see that. I do. Not how I was raised, but I understand that. I understand the concept.
There has to be winners or losers, man. There always has to be winners or losers.
My mom would tell me that. She's like, give it your best. That's all that matters. My granddad's like, if you lose, you suck. Because he's like, in line. No, he was just, because he survived Auschwitz. He's like, there was no, he's like, you lived or you died. There was.
There's nothing. The problem is that then there's nothing to aim for, and there's nothing to try to get better at. To make yourself better. And it's not necessarily competition in that I'm going to beat them, but that, and in fact, that there's nothing wrong with that at all when it comes to marks or something like that. You need to be able to mark where you are. We had a fabulous school in Toronto called the Etobicoke School of Arts, where you went in and you had to audition, whether you were an artist. My daughter got in, and then the school decided, because they're left-wing Stalinists, that they're going to make it a lottery because people were feeling bad not getting it.
And also, just let me say this:
how stupid is that?
Who would want to compete to get into a Marxist school?
Yeah, well, that's our Toronto District School Board.
I mean, there is a way to lose respectfully, man. You know, I mean, we all love Rocky. You know, Rocky lost the first fight, right?
Yeah.
But he fought his ass off to the bitter end. We've seen real sports events where two of the top teams took each other to the limit, but somebody had to be the winner. But you respected that team that lost because they put up a hell of a fight, right? There is a respect in that. But someone had to win. Someone had to win.
Rocky teaches you more about sportsmanship than it does about just winning. Right?
Well, like, that's what I mean. I mean, there's sportsmanship and then there's winning and losing.
Exactly.
But at the end of the day, when you're being competitive, someone has to win.
You do.
Absolutely.
When you don't have winners, look at the problems that it's caused. You have no winners. Well, I met a teacher, and her whole philosophy was like, we do not have winners, because if to have winners means you have to have losers, and I don't want any of the children to feel like losers. I'm like, how are they going to be ready when they leave the school? Because there is no such thing as no one loses, because someone wins. I mean, there's no communal. Okay, we all win. No, but
does she not have her favorite students?
Right.
that means they're winners. Everyone else can fuck off. I mean, this is bullshit. Yeah. There's always going to be a hierarchy, and there's always going to be people wanting to climb over you. Because I advise parents come to me and they say, well, you know, how do my kid become an actor? Things like that. Well, I say, don't now. Don't do it. Don't do it. But my mantra to kids has always been, including my own kids, you have only one basic job apart from being good people, is make yourself valuable. That's really, and how do you do that? You do that through educating yourself. You do that through extra education after school, by reading, participating, getting involved in groups, learning things, making yourself better. So that way, when somebody is looking to hire someone, you're going to be the best because you've made yourself valuable. Someone wants to make not necessarily money from you, but they see value in hiring you.
You led the frantics when you are crafting jokes. I'm sure you have your own internal pageant. This is good. This is better. Everybody does. So you have it. You're going to go, this is good. This is better. You're going to.
Well, yeah. Plus, it was competitive in a nice way between the three other guys. Is that you would come in with your 20 sketches, you would read them, and you would instantly know which one sucked and which didn't. They didn't even have to say anything. Like you what I call, you tasted the routine in front of other people. You tasted it. It came out of your mouth, and you went, "Wow, this is shit." So the competition is, but it's.
I think it's healthy.
There's also good ways and bad ways. And I'll just mention this briefly. So I know other comedy groups at the time, the moment someone would read or pitch something, negative comments would immediately come out. Okay. Yeah, that might be competitive, but it's also not particularly healthy. It's because you are most attached to your creative effort in its first draft.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the Frantics had a routine where we would read it, not comment, and then we would put them all into folders, and then we would hand the sketches out to other people and go, okay, who wants to rewrite this? Who wants to rewrite this? Who wants to rewrite this? And then we would pass them out. And there at the very end of the table would be a bunch of sketches that nobody wanted to touch. No one said anything bad about them, but there they were at the end of the table, the shitty ones that nobody wanted to touch. Wow. But we weren't railing on each other. This is why we stayed friends for 20 years, working with each other. We didn't have arguments with each other because there's a difference between letting your ego make the competitive decision and your brain making the competitive decision.
100%.
And so we found this method that allowed us to write good stuff, but not let our egos in on the writing process. So anyways, I just
no, that's good.
That's genius.
Wait, let me finish these real quick because I've been waiting. Man of War 665, Neighbor of the Beast, Anaconda Malt Liquor. It gives you
Anaconda Malt Liquor. My God.
Man. That's
I used to. What was it? Oh, Mad Dog 2020.
Oh God, that was some horrible shit.
18, we were looking for something cheap. John Maynard for $20. I would encourage you to watch Matt Walsh's Am I Racist? I haven't seen that yet.
Oh, you know what? Me and Chris Gore are watching that next week. Actually, we're going to.
Is it out? Is it out yet?
I don't know, but we're going to a screening of it. So.
Oh, really? Shit, I want to fly there.
I'm curious about it.
Well, he did say that he wants all the black people to buy tickets for the white people and just protect them as they go in.
Crazy. And we got Eric Heffelfinger for $10. I think if Trump get both the popular vote and the college, a lot of these celebs will come out and support. They will feel safe. I'm seeing more and more, and I agree with you.
Maybe.
Emily,
but a lot of them didn't last time around either.
Yeah, but it's different this time. I think even the atmosphere has changed. That's just what I'm feeling.
I think you might be right on that. I'm not arguing that point, but I still wonder if in Hollywood it'll still be safe enough. But we have seen more people speak out, so that it is true.
Emily Kruger for $2. Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday to you, Emily. Always good for you to be here. And we got Graph Web. Always. Love Graph Web for $2. It's like got my favorite mantra. In the name of all that is holy, cancel Disney Plus. Here.
Just do it.
Olaf, member for 8 months. Every week, great panel, I guess, and epic intros. Well, you're epic, my friend. Thank you for being here. Now, I want to share something with you. This is going to lead up to the last part of the show. I shared a little bit of it on the solo stream because I started doing solo streams, Paul.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah. And where the fuck did you go? There you are. Okay, so it's Eric Weinstein was talking to Chris Williamson a little bit about, he was talking about the election, but he wasn't talking about specifics. He's talking more the dynamics of it. It's 4 minutes. I'm going to play a piece of it and then we can talk about it. Here we go. Come on, you bastard.
I now feel comfortable saying, which is,
there you
go. I don't know whether Donald Trump will be allowed to become president.
What do you mean by that?
I think that there's a remarkable story, and we're in a funny game, which is, are we allowed to say what that story is? Because to say it, to analyze it, to name it, is to bring it into view. I think we don't understand why the censorship is behaving the way it is. We don't understand why it's in the shadows. We don't understand why our news is acting in a bizarre fashion. So let's just set the stage, given that that was in February. There is something that I think Mike Benz has just referred to as the rules-based international order. It's an interlocking series of agreements, tacit understandings, explicit understandings, clandestine understandings about how the most important structures keep the world free of war and keep markets open. And there has been a system in place, whether understood explicitly or behind the scenes or implicitly, that says that the purpose of the two American parties is to prune the field of populist candidates so that whatever two candidates exist in a face-off are both acceptable to that world order. So what you're trying to do from the point of view, let's take it from the point of view of, let's say, the State Department, the intelligence community.
Okay, so what do you think so far? I'm going to stop it there. So what he's basically saying is he's going to go on and to say that democracy, even though we're not a democracy, we're a republic in the U.S., he's like, is a mirage. You know, you have two private corporations, the Democrats and the Republicans, they come together and they go, okay, these are the two people who support this mentality, meaning they're going to slowly push forward the agenda we have all agreed upon, and they're not going to destroy what has been built up since World War II. That's the point that they consider all the agreements we have with Europe, with Japan, with Africa. What do y'all think about that?
I mean, listen, we kind of, the writing's been on the wall for a little bit with politics and stuff. I mean, we kind of it's all but been like an unspoken truth that we know some of the stuff going on right now, you know, with candidates, and we're seeing it a lot. And I think, agree or disagree with him as a candidate, I know a lot of people do agree with him. Donald Trump kind of surprised everyone. You know, they told us.
That's what he says.
These celebrities in Hollywood, they were telling you there's no way that this guy ever wins. This is never going to happen. We'll never see this happen ever. And the people that knew it was going to happen went, man, you guys are in for a rude awakening. And then it happened, and it was like it upset the entire system because they went, how? This is against the rules. This is never part of the plan. All of this stuff. We watch people have complete meltdowns. We watch them weaponize the Department of Justice. We watch all of this stuff happen, and he was, I wouldn't even say that he was actually that extreme of a candidate, but like the reality is,
populist. That's what they were saying, is no populists are allowed because populists put the country first before any international agreements. What do you think, Robert? You think there's any, sorry about that, Mike, I want to go around.
Well,
you think there's any validity to that? It's an interesting theory, is what he's saying.
Look, I'm a fan of Eric Weinstein. I watch a lot of what he has to say, and you know, his brother Eric taught at the Evergreen State College where I went to school, and watching what happened in 2017, where there was a student uprising at Evergreen, it was as far away from the college. I went to Evergreen because it was known as a crunchy, chewy, totally liberal college. And, you know, we would have arguments. I literally saw people jump on desks and scream at each other at that school. And I really had a great time going there, and to see what happened, to see the far left, the whole school captured by this ideology. It was the antithesis of the school that I'd gone to. And it, you know, obviously it was a long time ago where I was there in the mid 80s. But look, for me, I think that the disappointing part about American politics is we no longer allow call them people of good character, or people that are learned people, or people that really should be in the political sphere. Like, I'm a huge Winston Churchill fan.
Mm-hmm.
I loved reading his account, his 5-volume account of what happened during World War II. And I just wonder where.
I love his Instagram channel.
I love Winston Churchill. Don't listen to the last Tucker Carlson video that he interviewed somebody who I think he's a fucking fruitcake.
Well,
he
but
Winston Churchill, the greatest villain of World War II, almost saying he was worse.
Well,
than Hitler.
I mean, we live in such a clown world, but I would love to see a real statesman come forward, somebody that could really inspire and motivate. And I think, look, the way we lead is not going to happen. And I think that, Donald Trump kind of represented for a lot of people a return to common sense in a way. Like we now live in a world that seems bereft of any kind of common sense. And we see in California, like Verbal brought up, the idea that you would decriminalize shoplifting.
Yeah.
And you're doing that to make it easier so you don't have to fill up the courts. But when you do that, a company is just supposed to absorb theft.
No.
Like, whether it's CVS, whether it's Walgreens, whether it's Home Depot, whatever company you want.
And which, by the way, they would only do that for so long before they decide to close up shop and just move somewhere else.
Oh, look at Chicago.
Well, this is what I was referring to earlier when
Look at Chicago.
when Anton was still here.
Yeah, but
about them changing laws about squatting and everything too.
It's like whoever thought that was a good idea.
Well,
defunding the police. I mean,
they want to destroy it. They want to destroy it, Robert. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
Well, no, but the problem is they don't have anything to offer to put in its place.
Yeah, they do.
Everybody talks about tearing down the patriarchy, destroying Western civilization. To do what? There is no other place you can point to and go, we want to make our place like that over there.
No,
because
they want to recreate it.
That takes work. But the problem is they don't want it. Nobody wants to do the work anymore. We live in a civilization that was built over centuries by motivated, intelligent people that fought and for every shred of civilization that we have. And now our civilization is in a existential conflict with civilizations that didn't undergo a reformation, didn't have an age of enlightenment. And we're supposed to say that we're all on equal footing together. People are not telling the truth anymore. And that's what I think is problematic in our world. And it's problematic from the top down. Nobody's telling the truth about anything. It's like the idea of children, don't let children keep score. Why would you not do that? What are you protecting children from? And no one can tell you.
A feeling.
Hey, if they feel bad, let's get them all on Big Pharma's product. Let's start feeding them ADHD medication when they're 2.
Right.
Let's give everybody a pill. I mean, it's so counter to common sense, and our entire civilization has become this way.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, if we're going to talk about the bigger picture here, man, there are way too many people, way too many establishments that are benefiting off of the system right now.
Oh yeah.
They don't want this system to change. They think we're doing fine because they're benefiting the most. But those are the people with the power, with the money, the ones who are making these decisions, right? So they don't want this to change. The crime, they want more of it. I rack my brain wondering what is this? How does Gavin Newsom benefit?
Cloud pivot. It's
from California becoming a shithole. Like
Cloud pivot strategy. You crumble the entire infrastructure so the government can turn around and go, guess what? We can save you. You don't have a job? No worries. We're going to give you a guaranteed income once a month. You're going to get your food. You're going to do what you're told.
You have to understand, Gavin Newsom crashed the world's 5th biggest economy.
I know that. But how they sell it to the rest of the world is going
good
great.
Looking.
What I love is how much shit they gave Schwarzenegger.
Oh, you're not wrong.
Right, because it's funny what Robert was talking about. You're talking about our health. That's one of the things that I really liked that when RFK jumped on board with Trump, they just put out this new ad. I don't know if YouTube will allow me. I guess I could play it. I'll stop it on and off. Hold on.
For 19 years, I prayed every morning that God would put me in a position to end this calamity. This is a spiritual journey for me. I reached my decision through deep prayer, and I asked myself, what choices must I make to maximize my chances to save America's children and restore national health? I felt that if I refused this opportunity, I would not be able to look myself in the mirror, knowing that I could have saved lives of countless children. President Trump has told me that he wants this to be his legacy. The most unifying theme for all Americans is that we all love our children. ultimately, the only thing that will save our country and our children is if we choose to love our kids more than we hate each other.
Golda Meir.
It's interesting. You should see how much flack Cheryl Hines is getting. Bill Maher came out Friday night, which I was surprised. I didn't think Hollywood, well, I'm not surprised. Trump was beloved by Hollywood at one time, so was RFK. But I thought that Cheryl Hines was an insider. Like, she had been there long enough where they'd be like, okay, what's she going to do? Divorce her husband? Y'all heard about that?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And that Bill Maher segment was great.
I have it here. I read it.
Once in a while, something out of there happens. It's not completely stupid.
Is she not an insider, Robert?
Well, I mean, look, you're an insider as much as if you're on a hit show, you know, but I think there's this weird idea that there are these people call them the Hollywood elites or whatever. I don't necessarily look, if you become very successful and you have wealth, you become an elite no matter what industry you're in. It's just Hollywood is visible so people can see actors and the causes because you know when you become somebody of wealth, you people come after you for money. You become a philanthropist. You donate to the causes that you like. It's just that people in Hollywood have a spotlight put on them, but they're like people in any walk of life that is making a lot of money. You just don't hear about the other people because they're not in glamorous professions that people care about their love lives. So this idea.
I want to add one more thing is that somehow being a celebrity somehow makes you smarter.
Yeah. Well, that perception.
What are you talking?
Well, and I think the other what Paul is saying is, joking aside, is he's true. Like, there's something inherent I notice about all these celebrities. Once they hit a certain point, they're like, oh, I'm at this level now. I have to use my celebrity for good, right? And this has always been a part of Hollywood, going all the way back to Hanaway Jane, and when Brando had what's her face come out and accept his Oscar and all that kind of stuff.
Little feather.
So, yeah, exactly. This is nothing new. Hollywood, and you're right. They always think that they're better above, and this is how they do that, by virtue signaling. Like, that's where I feel like virtue signaling first started, was like this Hollywood, look at me, I'm under the spotlight, I'm doing all these things for people, praise me because I'm doing these things. And I can make a difference.
I'll always remember the quote from Patrick Duffy. Do you know who Patrick Duffy is?
The man from Atlantis.
Well, that's actually where it comes from. He said, this great quote. So when Dallas, where he played Bobby Ewing, became a huge hit, and he was one of the biggest hits on the show.
Yeah.
He said, when I was the man from Atlantis, I was an idiot. Then when I became Bobby Ewing, I was the smartest man in the world.
Yeah.
and I went, and I heard that when I was a young kid. Obviously, the show was a long time ago, but it really, I remember that quote to this day. And he was cynical about celebrity status back then. I mean, he understood that it was, a Man from Atlantis was a shitty show. It was lasted maybe one season, died. He was nobody. But as Bobby Ewing on a hit show, suddenly he became smart. So
that's why I love Anthony Hopkins when he was asked, what was it, 6 years ago, to chime in. It was when Trump was running, 6, 7, when he was first running. He's like, chime in. He's like, I'm an actor, dear boy.
Yes.
He's like, why would you ask me? Because he didn't want to talk. He's like, we're idiots.
But there are, I mean, look, like my grandmother, before she passed away, her big, and my grandparents were not hugely wealthy, but they had money. They had a good business. My grandmother's charity of choice was the Seattle Children's Orthopedic Hospital, which is one of the premier children's cancer research facilities in the United States. And I mean, she would go and see the kids every week. And see kids that were terminally ill. She would always raise money for the telethons, and it was her big cause. And she was a believer, and she actually donated her time and efforts and money, and she would evangelize for that cause and talk about what RFK was doing now. And I think the health, anyone who's talking about the health of people, I mean, I don't mean to be cynical, but you start looking up forever chemicals. Which are everywhere, and you start seeing that. You look at the plummeting birth rates across the planet.
Testosterone.
I mean, I'm not saying testosterone,
or the fact that sugar is in everything.
Yeah, we're not in children of men territory. but it is, we live in a world where all of us, all of humanity, are being compromised for reasons of money, and that's it. It's only to drive profit. There's no, it's like there are acceptable losses, and most companies, especially whether you're talking about BlackRock and Vanguard, when they're investing in the long term. Like, why in America do we allow companies like investment companies to buy up affordable middle class housing? Why don't we? And they buy huge swaths of it to profiteer off housing in this country when we have a huge housing problem. Why do we allow it? Because if anyone can make a profit, they will, at the expense of everything else. And that thinking is fairly new. I mean, there's always been profiteering, don't get me wrong, but there was an idea that we had something the public good,
not at the expense of the country or the community.
And that's the problem. Everybody across the board, whether it's gas prices in California, if you can jack up the price and blame it on, well, one of our things went down or something, we will. And I think that we're in a position now where it has weakened our country. Our national defense has been so compromised by profit across the board at every level that until we start having people that are going to talk that way, and of course they won't because it's political suicide, which means nothing then gets fixed. It's like the homeless problem. Unless you're going to start talking about getting people help for addiction and mental health issues, which is expensive, you have to have people to do it. You have to have facilities to do it in. There's no profit in that. Michael Corleone said, helping my fellow man is profitable. He said that in Godfather 3.
I mean, let's be honest here, man. They're willing to sacrifice children at this point.
Of course. And they are. They're getting everybody is on pills. Everybody is on some kind of, whether it's Ritalin, call it what you want.
They're trying to do gender affirming care for 4-year-olds. They're trying to get them hooked on gender,
on
biologically sex changing drugs to 4-year-olds. That's how little fucks they give.
But do you legislate that change? That's
California is.
No. I'm not talking about legislating it to do it. I'm talking about what Rob is talking about, like that one pharmaceutical company that bought some insulin variant, and then it went from $1 a dose to $700 a dose.
You're talking about the guy who's went to jail.
Who did that? But you're
right. How do you can't legislate that?
That's the challenge. And ultimately, if we're a community and we know more about what we're doing and we see how meat is actually manufactured, that it doesn't just come on a foam container with it covered in cellophane, that it has to be raised, has to be slaughtered. There are farmers that are doing things. We don't know how things work. The cities are hermetically sealed. There are no bugs or mosquitoes in the cities. We don't know that life exists. I mean, like we are constantly trying to make our lives simpler.
But we're losing everything by making them simpler.
Correct. And we don't know where stuff comes from anymore. On the other hand, I really strongly believe this. My one guiding philosophy is something from Lao Tse, a Chinese philosopher. Yes. For every law we enact, we love each other less.
Of course. It's always
at
true.
Some point, common sense should be ruling 90% of the stuff that we're doing. I'm being a Pollyanna.
But common sense comes from character.
Yeah, and caring.
There is no such thing as common sense anymore. And also, says it's super sense now.
Also, it comes from a general education.
Yes, and it does.
A well-educated, like I've always said, our first line of national defense should be a well-educated and healthy population.
Always.
Well, that should be the very first things that we should be concentrating on.
But they're not being educated anymore. They're being programmed.
Well, there you
that's
go.
The thing. They're not getting a general education, and they're being told that the education they're getting is from Western civilization, which needs to be toppled.
That's correct.
And they were literally trying to push that math is racist. Okay, right. That 2 plus 2 is racist.
Dante, you and I 4 weeks ago read that article together. They said milk is racist in the UK.
Yes.
Come on. Here, because Robert was talking about 10 minutes ago about how everything is for profit, how everything is for sale. This happened a long time ago that not a lot of people paid attention to in Chicago. I'm sure the chat is going to be shocked by this, but they're looking to do it in cities near you. Listen to about 30 seconds of this guy. It's really interesting.
2008, Chicago sold its streets to Morgan Stanley and a handful of investors for $1.157 billion. More specifically, they sold a 75-year lease on the city's 36,000 parking meters and their respective parking spaces. And until the year 2084, the people of Chicago will pay a private company anytime they want to park at a meter. That's right, 2084, which means the Bears might win the Super Bowl before Chicago is allowed to decide what it does with its own parking meters. It's okay, I can say that. I was born here.
Can you turn over? Yeah, Molly.
And aside from Chicago undercharging Morgan Stanley and friends by billions of dollars, Chicago gave up something even more important: control of their streets. Anytime Chicago wants to have a parade or do road work or take a meter offline for any reason, the citizens of Chicago have to pay Morgan Stanley back for their supposedly lost revenue. In 2012 alone, the bill was $31.5 million.
Yep. And they're pushing this for other cities.
Wow.
Yep.
But Morgan Stanley doesn't have any moral thought into just what the implications are, and there's no
the cities are going for it because they're bankrupt. They're going for the northeastern states because they have all that the immigration that's overflowed since Texas started pushing everybody, and then Arizona started busting everybody up there.
Corporations have no moral standard. They're just about making profit, and it's about maximizing profits. There's like without getting like religious, because I know not everybody's religious and stuff. There's a Bible scripture. It says, "My people perish for lack of knowledge." And it's a reality that the less, we have access to more knowledge and more information than we ever have before. And there's a reality to people that are that were educated about this before the public was educated about it, realized that controlling the flow of information was actually going to become more profitable and more important than trying to stifle it or trying to like put a clamp on it, which is what they were trying to do with the internet early days, was trying to figure out how to clamp it or put locks on it and control it. China has done that and stuff like that, but there's ways around that now. So the reality is you put out so much information that it's overwhelming and nobody knows what to look at or how to look at anything. And now we're in a point where people on YouTube, you can go pull up a YouTube video or look on a Google search and figure out, oh, this is how you do this, or this is what's going on in my company or in my country or my city, or so now we have access to that. Now we can kind of look at things and start to figure out what's going on. But most people are so overwhelmed by all that stuff that if you sit down and try to have a conversation with them, they'll go, I don't have time for any of that right now. I can't deal with that. I have too much going on in my life. And the one thing that changed a lot of this for a moment, and I think that this was a tipping point, was for a brief moment in time, we all were locked in our houses with nothing to do. And you know what people do when they get locked up with nothing to do? They go find something to do. They go read books, or they go on the internet, and you do that so many times a day though. But yeah, and then you're like, you know what, I gotta find something else to do. I can't keep looking at this stuff all day. But people go out and they go, you know what, I don't have to go to work today. I can, catch up on something I want to catch up on, or I can read, or I can look up stuff, or I can figure out what's going on. And now all of a sudden people are like, oh my God, I didn't realize this was going on. I didn't know this was happening in the world. Or, you look at something like a smaller example, like over in Italy, the channels for the first time didn't have pollution getting dumped into them. It cleaned up in 2 weeks. There was dolphins back in the channel in 2 weeks. But all this argument, we're being told the environment, the only way we get out of this is all these regulations and all these things, and that it's irreversible. We've all done all this damage, and everybody goes, no, it's just that a lot of the things that are causing this are giant corporations, and instead of them taking the blame for it, they're pointing at people and telling people they're the ones that are at fault, so people feel guilty about it. And people are spending all their time trying to push a boulder uphill that is being pushed on them by corporations. There's just a reality to, and I'll wrap it up here, but the reality to being educated gives you the power to actually enact change in the world. And the reality is, if you educate yourself enough, eventually you'll have people go, you know what, I'm going to go run for office because it is now a moral duty of mine to go stand up to these people that are corrupt and are not doing correct with the power that they've been given by the people. And that'll continue to happen as long as people continue to educate themselves. And if they don't, then the people that are corrupt will continue to just push whatever policies they want whenever they want to.
The main problem, just to put a fine point on it, is that there's no money in a solution. There's only money in maintenance.
Yes.
It is. Look at when you're talking about education, this article was posted the other day, right? And it was about, again, Musk. Robert Reich wrote an article last week in The Guardian of the 4 different ways that the world needs to come together to get rid of Musk because he is a threat. Now he's even
Guardian. Yeah, there's a
it's
neutral party.
It is a neutral, but one of the 4 methods they said is countries should look at jailing Musk. That's 1, 2, boycotting. Well, what struck me here, this article, it's obviously from MSNBC. It's, they're basically saying boycott Musk. That's not what shocked me. What shocked me was this part right here. They're describing him. He has complied with censorship requests from authoritarian-led Turkey while defying democratic Brazil. Did anybody miss that? Brazil.
Well, yeah, he's Lula has basically.
It's like a junta.
Yeah. No, Lula has taken over the Supreme Court, and he's moving it into Venezuela territory. That is, my business partner is Brazilian. I know this. We were talking about it last night at dinner.
But look what they said. They called Brazil democratic.
Yes.
Right.
It's not very democratic right now. I mean,
how are they allowed? Look at what they're doing because that's complete disinformation. You have a Supreme Court in Brazil with one justice who's basically running the whole country. And he's got Lula, who he let out of jail, who has as his puppet. That's a dictatorship.
Does MSNBC still consider themselves a news network, or
I don't know, propaganda arm? Because it can't be anything else. Come on,
no, because remember, Fox News had to come out and say like they weren't a news network, right? So did MSNBC or CNN have to do that too? Because they're both. I mean, they're all in the same bag.
They are. Dark Hierophant, you're right. They are trash. But here's the Bill Maher thing. I just wanted, because we talked about it earlier, I want everybody to see he's right once in a while. But how Cheryl Hines was treated.
Before you start this, I mean, I just got to say, here's the problem. We're belaboring under the idea that our definition of disinformation is their definition of disinformation. Their definition means I just don't like what you're saying.
Right, but I understand that except for in Brazil, how do they use that word? It's not democratic. The people have a court ruling them with a puppet.
Well, we'll see what happens with the next election. I mean, this Lula got in by, well, he always does, is buying out the poor North, handing out cash. Right. And we'll see what happens. Let's
it's nutty. And now they're going after all of Bolsonaro's family, everybody who supported him.
The Bolsonaro is an interesting character. According to my business partner, the man is certifiably nuts.
Really?
But he happened to have installed the smartest people available.
Oh, that's always good.
So kind of like Trump.
I think Trump's pretty smart, but I see what you're saying.
Who Larry David was quoted as describing as the best person I've ever met, the one person in Hollywood who doesn't have a single enemy. Well, now she does. Because she didn't throw her husband under the bus when her husband made a decision about something which she's made plain she disagrees with, but that didn't satisfy the obnoxious posers on the aforementioned far left. Thousands tweet screamed at Cheryl things like, "How do you live with yourself? Do better. I can't even enjoy the episodes of Curb Your Enthusiasm with you in them anymore. It's no wonder Larry divorced you." Yeah, that's a character on TV, but okay. The tweet that got the most attention was from actor Bradley Whitford, who wrote, "Hey, Cheryl Hines, way to stay silent while your lunatic husband throws his support behind the adjudicated rapist."
Wow.
It's like, do they really talk? Like, what I wonder is since I don't know any of these celebs, do they talk like that? Or is that a publicist who's like, the guy calls up and is like, say something to piss her off?
He doesn't have a publicist.
Okay.
No, there are a lot of pompous people in Hollywood, so I can easily hear him saying that.
Really? Wow. Because
he was on the West Wing after all.
Yeah, he was. But who was it that told me? Was it you, Robert, that told me a long time ago that they rarely publicly go after each other because they don't know who they're going to be working with in a few years?
Yeah, I mean, that's true. You don't. And the funny thing about, like Mars says, even the mafia doesn't go after wives.
Yeah, that's what he finished.
And you don't. Here's what I find distressing as I get older. This idea that we now have, if you disagree with somebody, look, our political system, you might hate somebody's guts, so vote. Get your friends and go vote.
Yeah.
We have our political system. If you're not going to participate in our political system, F you. And I mean, that's what I don't appreciate. If you don't like Trump or you don't like Kamala Harris, then go out there and go out there and canvass for your candidate and get people to go vote, participate in the political process. We still have one of the greatest political processes ever in the history of humanity. And it does still work. And this idea that somehow someone's going to cheat and steal the election, that is a pernicious idea that has never been proven. Our political system does in fact work. And what I find so frustrating is once somebody gets elected, rather than rally behind that person who's now become not just their president, but all of our presidents, why don't we rally behind that person in that administration to get as much done as we can? Our politics is so bogged down in hating the other side that we're becoming paralyzed and we're becoming weak.
Mm-hmm. That's why nobody's going to win, hate or hope.
Well, Robert, in all deference, when Trump won, we got the greatest collection of memes ever that we've been using since. I just want to say, there's positive to everything.
It is true, but look, I mean, the world is becoming destabilized to a degree that we haven't seen since World War II, and we need serious people, and we need to start acting like the adults that the world needs us to be.
But there is a lot of evidence on the other side. I don't know if I can even say that on YouTube anymore, but you know what I mean. I mean, I hear what you're saying. The elections used to be. Time came out and said how they fortified it. You remember, 4 months after the election, they came out. Everybody who was involved, from Zuckerberg to the various corporations, they said, we fortified the election. We dumped our money into it. We played a lot of different things, which I can't say.
But no, they did. But to that extent, we have a lot of outside influences playing our elections. I mean, the internet is the Wild West.
Yeah,
and we're being manipulated on a daily basis all the time.
Well, I mean, okay, so I'm going to say something that's going to get me into trouble. Don't you think that the United States could do better than the two candidates that you've got?
Easily.
100%.
Yeah, 100%.
Easily.
Okay, so I'm not in trouble.
In the place we're at, with the two candidates, well, then Kamala Harris, are you talking about, I don't know, the place we're at, we need a fighter. I hear what you're saying, but I want a fighter. We need, let me finish playing this from Weinstein, and then I think we can pick it back up. I think you just made a perfect statement, so we can wait. Just let me finish this.
Community in the Defense Department and major corporations that have to do with international issues, from arms trade to, food. They have a series of agreements that are fragile and could be overturned if a president entered the Oval Office who didn't agree with them, and the mood of the country was, why do we pay taxes into these structures? Why are we hamstrung? Why aren't we a free people? So what the two parties would do is that they would run primaries. You'd have populist candidates, and you'd pre-commit the populist candidates to support the candidates who won the primaries. As long as that took place and you had two candidates that were both acceptable to the international order, that is, that they aren't going to rethink NAFTA or NATO or what have you, we called that democracy. And so democracy was the illusion of choice, what's called magician's choice, where the choice is not actually, pick a card, any card, but somehow the magician makes sure that the card that you pick is the one that he knows. In that situation, you have magician's choice in the primaries, and then you'd have the duopoly field two candidates, either of which was acceptable, and you could actually afford to hold an election. and the populace would vote. And that way the international order wasn't put at risk every 4 years, because you can't have alliances that are subject to the whim of the people in plebiscite.
See, that's where I completely disagree with Weinstein. What he's stating is in order to protect and preserve democracy, and he will go on, it's longer than the clip I was going to show you, but he goes on to say that there is another our government, the institutions within it are another form of democracy, protecting democracy from itself. He says it's a paradox. Basically, the people aren't wise enough, don't have all the facts together, don't have all the information to make the smart decisions to preserve the future, so we're going to do it for them. And therefore, that's why we hand pick who the candidates are, that we allow them to have a choice from. That's pretty much what he's going to wrap up and say, and that Trump...
So under that structure, everything was going fine until 2016. And then the first candidate ever to not hold any position in the military nor position in government in the history of the Republic to enter the Oval Office, Donald Trump, broke through the primary structure.
This is why, now this right here, what he just said, this is why I support Trump, and I think he's the best. Because we need to break the control. Whoever the fuck they think they are, that they think they can tell the people. If the people go, we don't want to have any more to do with the United Nations, we don't want to have to do with Europe. You get enough people and you convince them and you vote for it, rightly or wrongly, that's the citizen's choice. Not some a little cabal of bureaucrats and the corporations behind them to say, we know better than you. That's why I think Trump has come at a good point, a good time, originally to stick a middle finger into the intransigent forces that have entrenched themselves.
Now, that's one of the main reasons I'm kind of behind him this time around compared to what I had been in the past. Because, look, I've said it before, I was never a big fan of his. But at the end of the day, I looked at my life when what it was like for 4 years under Trump. And I know what my life's been like for the last 4 years. And I mean, anybody who can just stand there and go, how can you sit here and say that Trump's going to do all these things when he didn't do them the first 4 years, but yet think that Kamala's going to do all these things that the Democrats didn't do for the last 4 years, right? So at the end of the day, you're 100% right. To me, Trump is the wild card because he's not a politician. Does he tell us what we want to hear? Sure. Does he get hyperbolic and does he, tell fish stories or get really excited about, like, I'm the same goddamn way. I get passionate about shit. He's a normal guy at the end of the day. Somebody who's a billionaire or multimillionaire still eats at McDonald's. That says a lot for me. The guy got shot at, damn near lost his life, got his ear clipped, still stood up, right? How many people do you know would do that? So at the end of the day, I think you guys are right. Like, what scares me is I go to like bigger areas around me and I see Harris and whatever signs everywhere. And in the more rural areas, it's more Trump. Like when the more quote unquote real people are, in my opinion, because like, you're right. It's a rat race in the city. Everybody's just trying to do what everybody else is doing. And it's kind of the same thing with the celebrity thing we were just talking about too, where it's like all they're doing is mimicking the last thing they heard. Right. So it gets sickening at the end of the day. And at this point, I'm ready for getting back to the way we were 4 years ago, only better.
In retrospect, I don't think it was helpful for Trump to disavow the vote for Biden.
To disavow. But how do you, let me ask you a question about that. How do you
just accept it? Accept the loss.
Why
kind of like the Democrats did for the last 30 years in the last few elections?
I think that he would have been better off, in retrospect, accepting the vote and coming back to fight again. I don't see.
But then you don't prepare people. You don't prepare people.
Person like to accept something like, because here's the thing, whether I'm saying this in YouTube because I know YouTube can be a little stringent about stuff, but whether or not he was correct, to be honest, the people behind the scenes would have more access to that. And the reality is, like, the people that would know whether or not something was being and it was not on the up and up would be the people that are in the system itself. Because typically, like, even other politicians, like, if they know they're cheating, they'll accuse the other side of cheating so that they don't get accused of cheating first. It's all that stuff. The reality is, and the weird part about it is, there are not a lot of candidates, I can't think of any off the top of my head. And I mean, I'm younger, I'm in my 30s, but I don't think I can ever remember a politician or political candidate looking at people and telling them, hey, the reason that I ran for office in the first place was to protect you from what I saw was happening in the world. And that's a lot of why people don't seem to understand why Trump has such a fervent, loyal base of voters, is because he didn't tell. It wasn't just that he told them, hey, I'm going to fix the economy, or hey, I'm going to do all that stuff, because all these politicians have said that to people before. He said, I didn't even want to run for office, but I realized what they were doing to you, and I realized that the only way that this was going to change is if somebody stood in front of them. And for him to say things like, they're not coming after me, they're coming after you, and I'm standing in their way.
Correct.
Things like that builds the already growing reality that something's going wrong in our government, and that corruption is rampant, and that something's not right. And so for a political candidate to stand up, and Dave Chappelle pointed this out, and you mentioned his thing, he said, everything you think they're doing, they're doing. And I know they're doing it because I'm profiting from it.
Yeah,
and then went back in the house and did it again, huh?
But think about it. Think about it.
Yeah.
We are supposed to be Americans where anything can be discussed. Like that's, I mean, what do you hear people all the time? If you can't air your dirty laundry, that shows our true strength. How many times, every time something bad would happen in our society, I would hear people going, I wish they wouldn't talk about that. I wish they wouldn't talk about that. Like, well, that's our strength. So if you can't bring that up without being attacked, branded, labeled, it should be like, well, why not?
Oh, it's not even just being branded or labeled now. Now we have to worry about like being penalized for speaking.
Well, yeah.
Like I'm talking financially, imprisonment. Yeah. Like we are getting very close to that at this point, man. In the same way that Mike was talking about Trump, look at Elon Musk, man.
Yeah.
Twitter is literally the last free format where we could just speak whatever the hell we want. And yeah, even then there are some little rules, but not nearly like Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. There's very few places now where you can speak really freely without having to worry about it. You know what I mean? You look at what they're trying to do with J.K. Rowling in her country. They're trying to put her under the prison just for speaking about a male boxer or a biological male boxer fighting a biological female. Right? Don't think they're not trying to do that here.
Yeah, they do. That's why I said this election is there's a lot riding on it. Whether you're talking about price control, price control, or freedom, or
to that point too. I can't think of a time, once again, and I'm young, so I don't know a ton of history. I can't think of a time where a billionaire said, "Yo, I'm going to spend a massive amount of my fortune to buy a thing that is not profitable or beneficial to me, but is important to the people." For him to say, yo, I saw that that free speech was being repressed on this site, that free speech is important, that is important to the functioning of a society, of a healthy free society, of healthy free governments and things like that. So I'm going to buy the platform, privatize it, because he could have left it a corporation, privatize it, make it a privately owned company, and then to talk about and expose a lot of the corruption that was happening within that company, knowing that he was going to take a hit in the media, knowing that he was going to take a hit to his wealth, knowing that he was going to take a hit to people around him, knowing that they're going to bash his website. Because remember, Twitter was like beloved by the left until he bought it.
Oh, they were elitist about it, man. I mean, if you had a blue check mark back then, you were one of the special ones,
Hey,
when was the last time we've ever seen anybody
banned me from X?
Yeah.
So I'm feeling.
Well, Paul, that's because you're too controversial, man.
There's got to be a limit somewhere.
Is that true?
He's too Jewish.
Yeah,
I was banned from X.
I've been trying to get him reinstated, but
it's okay. It's better for my health.
This has been a great. It's been a great conversation.
Well, I can't contact you, Rob. I can't get onto Twitter anymore.
I was going to say, because you sent me an email and I owe you an email. I've just been so busy with this project. Okay. I apologize. I will send it back to you because I want to. But yeah, I think though that one of the things that Elon Musk, like, I admire, I know he didn't create SpaceX or create Tesla, but the man is at the forefront. He's fundamentally altered our ability to get rockets into orbit and get them down.
I would suggest Boeing did.
Well,
Boeing with their DEI policies.
Well, look what's happened. Look what's happened with. I mean, Boeing, their entire corporate culture. Here was one of the great American companies in Boeing.
There was.
But then what happens when the profit margin and suddenly Wall Street or BlackRock or Vanguard is pressuring you to make more money and more profits? Look where Boeing is right now.
It was the merger with McDonnell Douglas, I believe, back in the 90s that killed it.
Yeah, I mean, and they barely got that spacecraft home. They couldn't bring their astronauts home.
Did they get the capsule back?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, it did. Okay. So I missed that.
Just not the guys. Just not the guys. Musk is going to bring them back.
Yeah, I mean, but that's they're going after, because I think Elon Musk, there's an element of, he's kind of like Loki. He's a mischief maker. Yeah. And the thing is, he's doing things like it's funny that they're going after Tesla and all that, because those cars are great, and they might have their problems, but any new technology or new systems have problems. But the things that are, and I'm no Elon Musk fanboy, but at least he's out there trying to push the envelope and isn't being squashed by corporate interests or I mean,
Brazil.
What SpaceX has done is extraordinary.
Yeah.
And that technology, landing a booster rocket fell over and blew up after it had landed 23 times already. And then they ground the fleet. I mean, I would say if your rocket goes to orbit and comes back down and lands, this was 1950s sci-fi dream.
Yeah, he's a visionary.
I mean, it's extraordinary. And that Starship.
I watch all the booster landings. I don't watch the launches.
The booster landings everyone amazes me.
Amazing.
It's
just
amazing.
Fantastic.
He's brilliant.
Hey, he's an interesting guy. Also went to Queen's University in Canada.
It's because he has a vision. I know a lot of people use that word, but he pushes himself. He has this idea of the possibility of mankind, and we need people like that. That's why I like the fact that Trump said that Musk agreed that he would head the efficiency commission if Trump wins. Yeah, he'd head it up.
Yeah, we need more Tony Starks for sure.
Basically, yeah, we absolutely do. Guys, it has been wonderful having you here. I was gonna talk for a tail end about Rings of Power, but no, we're gonna do that another time.
What a fascinating show this became.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah. It's fun. I always love you.
I'm gotten into trouble with my last final review of Rings of Power because I accused one of the actresses of being as charismatic as a stamp collection and as well built as a ironing board. And I've been accused of being a sexist pig, and I'm gonna address that.
Oh,
but
really?
My main point of that was just I'm tired of beautiful women being uglified, women having to be turned into men, and it's just tiresome. I'm just absolutely.
I agree with you. Amen.
Tired. So that was anyway.
I did a whole show last week with Anna, that Star Wars girl, and Madam Savvy about that, man. And here, what's funny? Women are tired of it too.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah. Women are tired of it, man.
Oh, but I got a lot of comments.
I will tell you,
it was mean. It was a mean thing to say.
Like Madam Savvy said. Like Madam Savvy said, where are the titties?
Where are the titties? I will tell you the story. I would love the story.
I got moves.
My video is going to be out this week, by the way.
Thank you.
I shared Wednesday. I shared Wednesday a little bit about how it felt making it. And I was like, it still stuck with me. I still feel like one of those guys who's unclogging the toilet at Taco Bell during a summer heat wave on freaking burrito.
Oh, God.
No, I do. There's just no way around it watching Rings of Power. I still am surprised there's not one critic in Hollywood who, because the cinematography is so dark 90% of the time, that hasn't said this is a hate crime against color. What the hell is good about it?
It's because everything's...
No. I looked at it. Dialogue, shit. It's like, I was betrayed. Did you know I was betrayed? I was betrayed because I was like, did you see the star? The star is the star. It's like an AI binged on a Twilight script and Rachel Ziegler interviews and then tried to write Shakespeare.
It is it is not just all the worst parts of fantasy. It is all the worst parts of making movies and making television. It's wild to me. Just like, and this is like a really small thing because I know a lot of people get hung up, but like Peter Jackson was kind of a master of aspect ratios and depth and field of depth and stuff, so that to make characters look smaller and to make sense why they look smaller and the way they related to each other and stuff. If you watch this, you can see that they intentionally just make camera angles where a character stands way far in the back so they look smaller than another character. They shoot things at downward angles and they think, and I'm like, this is like the basic stuff that you do. We don't have any money to like make movies, and you don't have the ability to build sets and things like that so things can look that way. It's just wild how like even the small like things that you just pick up on, like this makes things look good in film. They don't even do that when
there isn't anything good about it. I'll give you an example. Episode 1 of season 2, Robert, if you haven't seen it, you're gonna love this part.
I have.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so for the chat to know, after the whole discount Dark Lord McSauron, when you got constipated Karen Galadriel, she's chasing Elrond. Why? Because Elrond somehow between the end of season 1 and the beginning of season 2 got a hold of the fucking rings.
Yeah, didn't explain that at all.
I know, but guess what? So he steals the rings before he knows the reason why, only to discover he's angry and the reason why after he's cornered when he learns Sauron made them. Because in the end of season 1, all he knew is that Halbrand was a shady dude. He didn't know it was Sauron. So I'm like, he steals them without knowing why, only to find out why after he gets cornered and told. I'm like, who writes that? Like, forget Tolkien,
I know.
It's all bad.
I mean, I don't know what kind of studio would produce this. It's like, that violates logic, no, Robert?
No.
Don't get me started on modern science fiction, fantasy, and horror writing on TV. I honestly believe that there is a problem in that it used to be that people didn't take genre material seriously. And then we lived in a time where genre material got elevated and a lot of great writing was done. I think now, and my theory is, it's this Joss Whedon theory. It's the Buffy Angel theory.
Okay.
All of the people that are writing fantasy and science fiction and horror, especially for TV, grew up watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel.
Yeah.
The way those characters talk to each other, the way that Joss Whedon set it all out. And that's how they want to bring that thing, that writing, that character interplay to every show, whether it's Rings of Power, whether it's Star Trek, whatever it is. I mean, that's why there is no sense of military decorum at all in Star Trek. It's the captain is hanging out with all of the secondary cast. Like whenever he has a dinner party,
he's cooking for them.
Yeah, he comes in, he's cooking for them, but it's all the principal cast. Like you didn't see Kirk in Star Trek hang out a lot with Uhura in his cabin, just shooting the shit.
No,
you know, there was a sense of military that's why they use ranks. That's why there's lieutenants and commanders. I mean, and they're like, well, it's Gene Roddenberry didn't want it to be a military. Well, it was a quasi-military. Call it what you want. They're using military ranks, and so when you watch this stuff, there's no credibility because everyone talks the same, whether it's, they might give you flowery language in Rings of Power, but they're not writing credible characters. Like, everybody should read Brandon Sanderson. He's a great fantasy writer. He took over writing the Rings of Power, but he's making tons of money with his own books. Go read on his blog his 3 rules of magic. He calls them magic systems, but basically it's world building. His 3 rules of magic systems should be required writing for anybody that's going to pick up pen and paper or start typing on a keyboard to write science fiction, fantasy, or horror.
Who is this, Rob?
Brandon Sanderson.
Okay.
And Brandon Sanderson made 40. He made $40 million. He during the pandemic, he wrote 4 books, and he was working on 4 books. And he's got such a big fan base. He made $40 million on Kickstarter and put out these books to his fans. He just did a game.
And the man pumps out books like it's going on a style. Like he can write so fast and so good. Yeah.
And it's his blog, the Brandon Sanderson blog, and when he talks about writing, and look up his 3 rules of magic systems. And he just lays out how to write science fiction, fantasy, and horror. Any kind of that kind of writing, he just is like, here's the rules that you should follow. And it's frustrating because not a lot of people understand that, especially the people writing modern Star Trek.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is a problem in Hollywood in general, man. I mean, you know, Chris Gordon did a video recently on Winona Ryder, who was commenting on the fact that these young actors don't watch movies. They have no grasp of film history, of cinema, of the art that they're in. They have no grasp of it.
Well, worse than that. I saw a blog many years ago of the top cinematographers who also teach in LA. And one person said, "What's your biggest frustration?" He said, "None of my students have seen any of the movies before 1980.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's horrible.
How do you be a cinematographer and not watch, you know, The Big Clock or Citizen Kane?
Easy Rider
on Netflix.
Lawrence
Easy Rider, yeah.
How do you Gone with the Wind, 10 Commandments, Ben-Hur, tons of that.
There's like a growing thing, and I actually I just recently watched Breaking Bad. I did not watch it when it was at its height. I just recently sat down and watched it because I was told, listen, if you're a writer, you need to freaking watch this, you know? And I was blown away, but I can also see now watching it in hindsight, how many people have just tried to copy the style of Vince Gilligan when it comes to their writing. And one of the problems that a lot of modern writers have is they go, I saw a thing, I liked it, how can I copy that? Not, how can I learn how this guy did what he did? And I don't need to try to become a writer that surpasses Vince Gilligan. I may never be at that level ever. That's okay. It's just, how can I learn what he did well, why he did well what he did, and then apply that to my own writing style so that I can be a better writer. Not, how can I mimic his style exactly and then and so now you see on television all the time and in movies all the time, everybody's a sympathetic, all the villains are sympathetic. They're actually not really bad people. They're good people.
God, I hate
bad guys are good and misunderstood.
And miss the fundamental idea. The fact is, like, Walter White is not a good person, and he never was. That was the lesson of the entire show.
They don't understand.
They don't understand how to do this.
Journey. That's the problem.
No, and it's not just that. It's like they don't know how to relate to a hero, right? Here's the problem, and this is, I know this doesn't cover every hero, but this is kind of like my generalized statement on this. A hero is somebody who has something bad happen to them, and they try to make sure that bad thing never happens to another person again. A villain is somebody who has something bad happen to them, and they take it out on everybody else. They relate more with the latter than they do the former, so they cannot understand and fathom what a hero really is. It's also what has to do with honor, and like you said, the hero's journey is another big part of it. Self-sacrifice. All these things culminate together, and you're right. You're 100% right. They don't know how to write new stories. They don't know how to make characters compelling. They don't know how to make anybody relatable, right? Because you can still relate to a villain and say, yeah, they're a villain, right? Yeah. That at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Yeah, I can still understand why they did that thing, but I don't agree with how they did this or why they did that. People can come to that conclusion. For some reason, this new crop of kids and new creative people can't, right?
Well,
like, because what Mike just, his perfect example of what he just explained was Quentin Tarantino, right? Like, that's the last generation we've had of real creative people who could take what they learned from the past, apply it to now. Because what did Tarantino do? He took all these B-movie and noir and other kind of things that he grew up with. Exploitation films in general, westerns, spaghetti westerns, Italian horror,
huge
everything. Exactly. He took all these things and he funneled them into his style. Voice, right, and made his style his way, and presented them to us in a way we had never seen them before, but yet it felt familiar, right? Like it's a new way of repackaging the same old kind of stories and tropes and characters, but in a way for a new generation. And the only way they know how to do, and this is me wrapping this up, sorry, and the only way they know how to do this now is with IP and IP only. Right? Like, they can't do it on their own. That's why Beetlejuice is the #1 movie in theaters right now, and it's shit. It's garbage. It's one of the worst written films I have seen in years.
Oh, man. So you agree with Squeaky Voice, the girl?
She's got a minor point, but that's one of the minor problems of this film. The
It
problem with
cannot
the
be
movie
worse
is-
than Borderlands, man. There's no way.
I don't know. I didn't watch Borderlands. That's the problem.
No
I didn't
way.
have expectations for Borderlands. I had expectations for Tim Burton and Beetlejuice. Problem is, it feels like a streaming series crammed into an hour 45-minute movie. Maybe it's because they got streaming writers to write it.
I got it. You know what you just said? I think that is one of the biggest problems with Rings of Power. It feels like TV when TV is dead, and streaming series, good ones, feel like movies.
Well, it doesn't feel like the TV I came from. This will be my last thing.
Grace Randolph.
I'm sorry for this level of simplicity, but when I was in Hollywood, and there was the executive that I knew that I spent time with, the guy in the snakeskin outfit. Jacket and pants with the cowboy boots. Okay. He would bring his female assistants in and watch audition tapes of male actors. And he'd go, so which one's fuckable? And the women would go, him. And then he would bring me in and a bunch of other guys. I don't know why he brought me in. And he'd show them the female actresses that he auditioned for this cop show. He says, okay, which one's fuckable? And then we pick out the one. And that was it. That was done. The show was done.
He brought you in for the guys because he thought you were gay.
Yeah, well, that's true. I was lucky. So,
well, no. Nobody's 100% right.
Point is, on one level, I appreciated the guttural simplicity of Hollywood at that time.
Boobs, no boobs. I got it.
I'll tell you, and just real quick. This is one of my favorite Hollywood stories, going right off of what Paul said. The reason Johnny Depp is here today is because the producers and Wes Craven's daughter took a look at 3 pictures in front of them, and I believe even one of them was Charlie Sheen, and they said which one should play the character, and they pointed all of them pointed at Johnny Depp, and they all asked why, and they said because he's dreamy.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to read it real quick. Okay, go ahead, Mike.
Well, this will be my last little. I mean, the reality is with like writers today and stuff, like it's important to be educated on what has happened before and what has come before. It's important to know what the hero's journey is. It's important to know basic writing like structures. But the reality is too, the other side of it is it's also important to know how to like change, how to invert those things, to subvert those things. Part of the thing is that surprises people when you go, I'm going to take the hero's journey, I'm going to apply it to a thing that nobody's ever applied it to before, or nobody's applied it in this way because it's coming out of a filter that I have specifically. But a lot of these people, if you don't even have an identity for yourself, if you don't even know who you are as a person, how are you ever going to write anything that subverts the idea of the hero's journey?
Because you don't have a voice.
How are you going to make a hero the protagonist or the villain, the protagonist of a story, and people go, oh my gosh, I've never seen this before, or all of it comes down to it's just as important to know who you are as a person and to be confident in who you are as a person and as a writer and want to grow and grow in your craft as it is to understand the basic tenets of storytelling so that you know to write a decent story with like a working skeleton. It's both, and they don't have either, unfortunately. So they just go, I'll read Save the Cat and I'll write a movie based on Save the Cat. You go, well, why do you even use that structure? I don't know. Somebody gave me the book one time and I read it.
I think most things are now written just from social media hashtags. Jesus.
Yeah.
All right. Mexican Ironman sending $20. I regret few things in life. One of my greatest regrets was being a lifelong liberal and progressive. I now realize that it was merely a tool that paved the way for communists.
Yep.
Today's Democrats are beta ass biatches. Thank you, Mexican Ironman.
Well, I would just like to say that I don't think liberalism is a problem per se. I mean, I still think of myself as a classical liberal.
Same.
But they don't exist anymore. You are the last ones.
Well, but I think that they do. And I think that I do. I think that we do exist. And I think the problem is we again, it comes down to education. And the more people know about a lot of things, the better off we all are. Now it's so much easier to have a knee-jerk reaction to somebody. And now, I mean, as a country, and by the way, this has been by design. We've been programmed to do this internally and externally by bad actors. They want us at each other's throats. This was something that has been programmed over a long period of time. You can't defeat the United States militarily. So what do? You rot it from within.
Divide and conquer.
They're doing a great job of it. And remember, at the end of the day, it is all of our differences and different points of view that make up this melting pot. And all of our diverse opinions and different points of view. You might not like me, and I might not like you. But our two opposing viewpoints are what this country needs to progress, to move forward. So, and yet it's being used as a fulcrum to turn us into people that hate one another. And it is our differences. It's that push-pull that brings the progress that we need.
Well, we have made progress.
You can't vilify the other side. We need both sides to find common ground and compromise and move forward. That's where a great civilization is built.
And I think you know, pretty soon you're going to be called alt-right, Rob. You know that. If Kamala wins, at least in my opinion, if Kamala wins the election, you will be considered alt-right.
I mean, look, as I
The
just
window
said,
has moved so far.
I'm somebody that believes that we need all points of view to make decisions that are
I
going to
agree.
work to move forward. And when I say that, people say, "Oh, you mean all?" Look, not people that are assholes. I'm not anybody that's going to vilify somebody because of their sexuality or the color of their skin. Fuck those people. They're missing the point.
Yep.
You know, it's those kinds of people. If I meet somebody that has a different experience of life than I do, like I always say at the end of my YouTube shows, every person you meet has a story to tell that you have yet to hear. And all you have to do is listen. You never know when somebody who's gone through a life much different than you have has something to teach you that you'll be surprised by. And that's what this country used to be. And that's what made it great. And the thing is, I don't believe in multiculturalism. I believe in a melting pot. We have to take all things from all people and figure out what works, blend it all together, and use all of it to make ourselves stronger.
Well, America
All
did
of
have
us.
a culture. And part of that culture was us. We all get along, and we find, and you're 100% right, Robert. It's how we can relate to each other. And what I think happened was somebody got smart on top of us, because we used to be, I think, like between the 80s and 90s, I think we had hit this nice point. I wouldn't say things were perfect, but we hit this nice point
were on
where
a nice evolutionary
we were on a
path.
nice even plane to where everybody's kind of like, you know what? We're all pretty much in this boat together. It's the man that put us here, right? So what did they do? They just decided, well, let's just slip white in front of the man and see how the people act. Right. And that's what, the powers that be, the media and all them did. And that's what got us here. That's the big start of it. Whether it was sexism, racism, whatever it was they were trying to push on us. Because when I was in high school, when you were just getting out of high school and getting into Hollywood and all that kind of stuff, Robert, at that time, gay rights were, the main thing. Paul was fighting for those and marching for them too. You guys know exactly what I'm talking about. That was kind of like the last frontier that needed to be conquered almost, it felt like. Like, it's like we had gotten equality for just about everybody and everything. We got religious tolerance to about the point we can get it to where most people can stand each other, but then we're never going to get along, right, on certain things. We knew that. We accepted that, right? And tolerance was the big speech in the 90s, was we need to be able to tolerate each other's differences and learn to live together.
And you also literally had the gay male population of this country was being ravaged by an epidemic that people didn't want to deal with it. And I mean, I lost friends. I watched people wither away and die in the space of months. And everybody was fearful and terrified. And yet 10 years later, we have same-sex marriage. So it was a victory that was fought in the wake of a lot of difficulty. And
I think a lot of these young people are trying to create that for themselves too at the same time, right?
Well, I think they're trying to create look, nothing makes you feel better than fighting against oppression. And when you can fight against oppression on one side of a screen and go after people, that's all fake. That's all. I get that's why people are doing it. What is the easiest way to make yourself feel better? Like you've done something good today. And what can you do? You can be recruited to pick up a cause and fight these battles online, or you can go march. You can go march on a college campus about a situation in the Middle East you know nothing about, nor do you know the history of it. You just know that people are dying, and that's sad. And we need to make sure that, those people are taken care of. Who doesn't? But what is the alternative? And who are they fighting against? And why did this war break out? And who are the people that want to perpetuate this war? And, it's they only know what's right in front of them. They don't understand the larger view, the world view. And that's because our educational system is being dismantled on purpose.
Yep. There's no critical thinkers. I'll tell this story real quick, fast. I'll be really quick, I promise. This just happened. This happened like, I don't know, 10 years ago in Michigan. There was a 23-year-old man who was playing with his friends, hanging out and drinking with his buddies on July the 4th. He took a firework and he was very drunk and he put it on top of his head and lit it and it blew up and it killed him and he died.
That
really
just
tragic
happened this
story.
last summer.
Yeah, that's because
Yeah.
it's called Darwinism in action, because the guy was
So his mother, remember, this was a 23-year-old man, grown man,
Right.
out of the house on his own living. His mother went to the local government and started trying to ban fireworks. And then she went as high as like going to like state senators trying to get fireworks banned. And she was interviewed and I asked her why. And she said, you know, I'm you know, heartbroken. I lost my son and blah, blah, blah. And they're like, well, you know, he was an adult. She's like, I know he made stupid choices. I know it was terrible. It was all on him, but I don't know. I just feel like something needs to be done.
Yeah,
And-
the guy saved us from him having any more fucking kids and giving us window lickers to
But
invade the population.
The core of it is she felt like something had to be done to justify or to somebody had to be like held accountable for her son dying instead of her son being the one held accountable. But she went to the government to try to involve them in banning fireworks because her son died from his own stupidity. And when I just felt like something had to be done. That is the core of what is happening when you're uneducated. Is you go,
How
I'm
many,
going to make an
how
emotional
many
choice.
laws do we have that are based on edge cases exclusively?
Oh my God, the coffee with McDonald's.
Everything.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
We've had one massacre in Canada 15 years ago, terrible, École Polytech in Montreal, and that has dictated all our gun laws. One massacre.
Yeah, that's right, Cinda.
It's
Sorry.
stupid.
I agree with my brother. We need to make stupidity illegal. All right, Prince L. Lee N for $5. Common sense makes 0 sense in today's society. Intelligence has been replaced by indoctrination.
Well, as I was saying earlier, Script Doctor likes to say common sense is no longer common. It's now super sense.
Yeah.
Since not very many people have it. So
Yep. We need to make normal again. Prince L.E. N again for another $5. I'm a retired vet. Our military is losing its foundational roots. That's horrible. But thank you for your service, my friend. It's become a politically correct civilian corporation that doesn't generate profits. And these are the people that are supposed to be defending the country.
Oh, we lost
I think
Robert.
we lost Robert. Hopefully he'll come right back. These are the people supposed to be defending our country.
He's on that California internet.
Yeah, I've been talking to several friends, and they've told me how destroyed the army is. The army.
Well, that's the easiest way to make us weak first, right? Is to go after our army, go after our young.
Look at our Navy men who were just had 3 guys had their ass handed in was it the Philippines or Turkey by the civilians? Then the Navy men. I'll have to look that up. Thank you, Prince L. Lee. Oh, Robert is back. Thank you, Prince L. Lee. Thank you for your service.
Well, you just always got to remember that these were the same people that were trying to tell us that, you know, having tobacco ads on TV and race cars were going to influence us to smoke. But gay story, drag shows, and all that shit are okay.
Yeah. It's nuts because they have an agenda and they want to push it. Niambri Moonrai became a YouTube member. Thank you, Niambri. You're now part of Slayer Nation, and you helped us grow some more. Thank you, my friend. Okay, so we read them all. I believe we got them all. Yep. I want everybody, please thank our moderators for today. It's Lord Thoth, Fletcher Williams, and the amazing panel. Also, Syndic is here. All right, we're going to go around the board. Epic Mike, where can everybody find you?
Yeah, you can check me out over on YouTube. We just passed 2,000 subs, so I'm really excited about that. Yeah, we're just cruising. I'll be streaming tonight. We're doing a video game stream, Metal Gear Solid 3. I've been playing through that. That's been a really good time. So yeah, go check me out over there and keep your eyes on Epicverse. I was telling George behind the scene, we're working on a lot. Movies are expensive and take a lot of time, but we're cruising along on things, and I promise as soon as we have more to announce, you will not hear the end of it from me. So
all right, Paul.
I'm just humming along. It's going to be a bachelor week. My wife's gone for the week, so it's just
strippers are coming.
Hookers and porn.
No,
I got to do the stuff that I usually do, enjoy myself, and enjoy the stuff that you do and everybody else's stuff that's on this channel. And I'll probably be on Tom's channel tomorrow.
You know what I love is that people imply that as soon as men get alone, we do naughty, nasty things. No, we go out and buy Lego sets and stupid shit like that. That's what we do.
I was going to say eat pizza, watch
I don't know.
Exactly. Or watch a movie that we would no longer get to watch when you're around or something like that. Yeah. Not necessarily even sexual.
No pants on. Yeah. It's just like, whatever. Yeah. I don't have to. So
clean my guns, watch a movie.
Yeah. Just guy stuff.
Verbal Riot. Where can everybody find you? What are you doing next?
Yeah, so you guys can find me at Verbal Riot on YouTube, X, and Rumble, and got a live show coming up this Thursday at 6 o'clock.
Oh, that's sweet. Oh, by the way, this Wednesday, before I forget, almost forgot, our video is coming out, but this Wednesday I will be interviewing Robbie Starbuck.
Ah,
that's nice. Yep, I'll be interviewing Robbie Starbuck. So everybody be there.
Speaking of Giant Killer.
He is a Slayer. Yeah, he's awesome. All right, Tom, where can everybody find you?
Oh, you can find me at Midnight's Edge and Midnight's Edge After Dark, but I prepared something for you in your ring, love.
Oh, yeah.
Can you guys hear it?
Yeah.
You'll hear a tale of the panderings of power, where Amazon subjects you to torture for an hour, destroying the lore of Lord of the Rings. Listen to the tale as the sad bard sings.
I like that.
They could have bought Middle Earth with the money they paid for the rights. So much money wasted on a bunch of criddles and tights. Tolkien is rolling in his grave with all this nonsense. Galadriel so unlikable. Elrond looks like a broad, dirty, carny midgets instead of hobbits. I mean, who even asked for this? I almost feel sorry for Sauron and want him to win, just so this shit will end.
That is cool. You got to send it to me.
There's a little bit more of it. I'm working on it.
Panda Rings of Power.
I stole that from you. So
that's cool. High King Bling. I realized that High King, I can't even fucking say his name.
It's not tights, Tom. It's curtain material. That's what they're wearing is curtain material.
I love that line though. You've never seen so much money spent on queerdos and tights. That's
no, that's fine. I'm not just telling you I'm being accurate. It's more curtain material.
Prince Ellie is back for $2. Thank you for all your support. I am thrilled for your support, and I'm always glad to support veterans. Always. Period. End of statement. You always have my love. Every veteran does. Now we have, last but not least, my favorite, Robert Meyer Burnett. Happy birthday to you!
Happy birthday again.
Somebody in the chat named Liam Neeson. I don't know what it is. Liam Neeson something said they watched the movie, the Asian film Sex and Fury, because I recommended it on Let's Get Physical Media. You're a better man for it, aren't you? So thank you for doing that. Somebody that was in your chat just now. Yeah, you can find me of course on YouTube at my channel, The Burnett Work, after my last name. And of course, if you want, I'm in the last couple of days for support on Kickstarter for our audio drama. I can say this: the star of our audio drama that plays our lead character is Michael Rosenbaum himself, Lex Luthor from Smallville, from the Inside of You podcast. He is our lead. He plays Nathan Heller, and he is just crushing it. He's incredible to work with, but there's some other people you might know in our audio drama. Katie Sackhoff is in our audio drama. Jeffrey Combs, Bill Sadler, William Sadler, the villain from Die Hard 2, Death from Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. Barry Bostwick, who was in Megaforce, and he was the mayor on Spin City. He plays Franklin Delano Roosevelt. PJ Byrne, who was just cast on the new Rainmaker TV series. Who isn't? Patton Oswalt records this week. It's an incredible bunch of people. And,
do you have the link? We could share it.
Yeah, it's just on Kickstarter at True Noir, or go to truenoir.co. There it is. We're in the last days, and we are going to premiere this next month. I've still got people I want to record. I want to get Paul to do a voice. Next month.
That would be fine. I'd be happy to do
at New York Comic Con. So yeah, it's been one of the most creatively gratifying things I've ever done.
Beautiful. I cannot wait. I cannot wait.
Even I mean, I know it's just an audio drama, but even I'm amazed at how good it's turning out.
I think you're going to set a new trend. You're going to take us back to the old radio days.
Listen, I'm a big radio guy. I did 4 years of radio, 120 half-hour shows. I mean, radio's great. You know,
you're going to love this. I mean, we're mixing it like it's a movie.
My start.
We're mixing it like it's a movie, and it sounds like a movie. But it's not. I call it cinema without the pictures.
I can't wait. I appreciate it. All right. So our video for Panda Rings of Power will be out this week. I'll be interviewing Robbie Starbuck Wednesday. Be there. It'll be around 4:00. And I love you, chat. Everybody here. Jim Alaska, hope you're still here. Thank you, my friend, for always being around. Cancel Disney Plus. Dark Hierophant. Princess Fiona. Red French Moon, all my favorite panelists. These brilliant guys. We had Anton. Anton's going to be coming back. And I wish you all a blessed week. If you want to win every battle and stay true to yourself, all you have to remember is that we never bow down and we never bend the knee. Always forward.